Okay, let's open the meeting of the ARPA Applications Review Committee. We will start, as we always do, with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Tonight we'll have a formal roll call. Carl Bonamico.
Here.
Mike Berdinsky, that's me. Craig Fishbein is absent. Rob Fritz.
Here.
Mike Glidden is absent. Bob Gross.
Here.
Jacqueline McNamee.
Here.
Chris Regan.
Here.
Jesse Reynolds.
Here.
Amy Walsh.
Here.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We have a quorum. On updates, there's a couple of things I think. I may have sent around to you the other day an email from our consultant that's just worth noting that she says with respect to nonprofit applications, there are 41 complete ARPA eligible nonprofit applications. There were 40 on the portal for a while. The Historic Preservation Trust was added, making it 41. So they're all up there. Going to the business applications, she reports that there are 81 complete ARPA eligible business applications and 18 not eligible business applications. So that's her update. Any further questions on it, give me a call at another time and we can go into it. I don't think that's going to change. The meeting schedule is such that the meeting for February 20 is canceled. I just sent out a notice of cancellation. I think you all got that. And then on February 21, the agenda has been out for maybe a week. And those are, as I recall, nonprofit applications, and they can tend to be a little more complicated. So allow yourself time to prepare for those because it's, yeah, they're just can be more complicated. So that's all I had for that. Because we got this report from the consultant about the business applications, 81 complete ARPA. Jesse, can you re-randomize now using the total list? And as usual, call out the ones we've disposed of. And then send that to me. And as soon as I get it, I'll look at it. We'll send it around and that'll be the basis of the agendas going forward per our system. Okay. So that's that part of it.
You want me to remove, like, so just saying hypothetically, if we don't get to any tonight, do those go back into the kitty and get reshuffled, or those are to be added to the next meeting? So don't randomize those.
So let me give you an example. Let's supposing there's 81 now on the portal. Carefully go through and call out the ones we've dealt with. And let's say that leaves 60, scramble to 60.
Okay. But I just mean like,
Yeah.
So for example, like tonight we have a couple that we've removed. So obviously those could,
To be discussed.
okay.
Okay.
But if there are any on here that we do not get to, because we do say that.
Yeah, those will be rescheduled for March 8th.
Okay, all right. So then it's
Which is
just
our
the
next
stuff that we've
business.
just the stuff we haven't touched yet.
Yeah,
Okay, good.
yeah, just the stuff we haven't touched yet. Okay, we've got to deal with the nonprofit assistance evaluation form. The council passed this on Tuesday night. It's not all that different from concepts that have been previously discussed, but it's never been formally adopted. we went through this exercise, you know, for the business applications. We decided on a 69 as the failing score, 70 a passing score. We went through this for the nonprofits programming application, and we decided a 75 score or better was a passing grade. Well, this is nonprofits, but it's not programming. It's nonprofits that have had some hardship or adverse economic impact. And these are the criteria, you know, and we've got to decide before the next meeting what a passing score is. That's the only decision for tonight, and then we'll move on to the businesses that are on the agenda, starting at 7. I mean, I'll just throw out a number. It's crafted a little differently than the other nonprofit evaluation form, obviously, because they're different categories and different criteria. But we did 75 for the other ones. Just throwing out a number to start the discussion, 75 for these, but I don't have a dog in the fight. I'm just trying to. Carl, you're next.
You like me to propose a number?
Whatever you want. You can pass it on to Jackie, you know, that'd be good too.
I'm very satisfied with 75. I think that's a good number.
All right. Jackie,
75 is fine with me as well.
75 was fine with me as well.
Rob, Chris,
I'm good with 75.
Jesse says 75.
75.
I'm good with 70, but I'll concede to 75.
Okay, so at that point, I would I'll make the motion that for the nonprofit assistance evaluation scoring matrix, 75 or above will be deemed a passing grade. Motion by Mike Burdinsky, seconded by
Second.
Bob Gross. We'll make a formal roll call. Carl Bonamico,
Yes.
Mike Burdinsky is yes. Craig Fishbein absent. Rob Fritz.
Yeah.
Mike Glidden absent. Bob Gross.
Yes.
Jacqueline McNamee.
Yes.
Chris Regan.
Yes.
Jesse Reynolds.
Yes.
Amy Walsh. Okay.
Yes.
We took care of that piece of business, and now let's go on to the list. I'm going to take the first one. But I want to ask,
Mike, can I just make a comment on the reverse refusal? If it is appropriate, or should I wait until that?
for the which?
For the, what I mentioned, I was going to reverse my refusal from one of the businesses, or should I wait until that comes?
No, let's take care of that now. And thank you for reminding me. Any recusals or unrecusals for tonight that are on the list? Jesse,
The first one, Emmy Landau.
Emmy Landau?
Mhm.
Okay. Hold on. Mike Burdinsky, I don't have any recusals for tonight. Craig, no. Rob Fritz, what's your
I'm
status?
gonna reverse my recusal on Cobra Automotive. I really misinterpreted the requirements, but being a customer was a reason for recusal. I was a customer at one time. I'm no longer. I don't have any connection to the company in any way, shape, or form. So I thought it was inappropriate for me to recuse. So I'm gonna reverse my recusal and vote like all the other businesses.
Okay, so you're voting on Cobra.
Yes.
We still need a mandatory 8 people or no?
Well, no, because we need a super majority.
Super majority.
And so you're still recusing
I am absolutely, it's a client of mine.
on, on Cobra. Anyone else on
Yes,
Cobra?
Race of Finishing Industries.
Anyone else recusing on Cobra? No, okay. Mike Glidden's not here. Bob Gross, any recusals tonight?
No.
Jacqueline, any?
No.
Chris?
No.
No?
No.
Okay. Jesse already spoke up. Amy?
No.
Okay, so we got no recusals. Very good. 1 second. Is anyone in the back from Dewey Amici or Abrasive? No? Okay. So let's start going down the list, and the first one is Landau. Let me just get my papers organized, and I'll start with that, and then we'll.
Oh.
So I really wasn't expecting to do this one, but I'm happy to do it. But I wanted to review for my benefit, everyone's benefit, people that may be listening for the first time and those in the audience, sort of my view, this is my personal view, I'm not speaking for the committee, but my view of what we're doing and what the criteria means. We have written criteria that the council has given to us, and our job is to follow that criteria. We're not making it up on the fly as we go based on our own subjective thoughts. The criteria that was given to us outlines a program to help businesses that are still struggling as a result of the pandemic, that are still stung by the pandemic. And as I go through these, I am looking for evidence of that. This is not, and was not intended to be, a revenue replacement program. A revenue replacement program would be something like, I took a loss in 2020, I'm doing okay now, but I want to make up for what I lost in 2020. That is not what the council told us to do. This is not a revenue replacement program. The criteria that are in front of us from the council is, first, we're looking for financial adversity. That's the word used in the criteria, synonymous, according to the dictionary, with the financial hardship. It has to be current adversity. It has to be caused or somehow linked to the pandemic, not general shifting business conditions or particular business model or business trends that ebb and flow like the tide. It has to be linked to the pandemic. For me personally, this sort of explains my vote, and I kind of feel obligated as chair to sort of set out where I'm going with these. If a business is back to pre-pandemic levels based upon the financial materials we have, which is the tax returns, if they're back to pre-pandemic levels, for me, it's pretty hard to give that application a good score. They've recovered from the pandemic without government help, and the program given to us by the Wallingford Town Council doesn't address that kind of an application in my view. So if a business is back to pre-pandemic levels, I sort of look for that. Are they not? And there's gray areas, and when there's doubt in my mind, then I may score accordingly, the score reflecting that doubt. If a business is not back to pre-pandemic levels based upon the financial materials that we were given, that opens the door a lot wider for me personally. They're not back, they're still, it's demonstrated that they're still stung by the pandemic. Their gross is down maybe, their net is down maybe, both are down maybe. And for a small business, you kind of live close to the edge anyway. You can't absorb as easily a minor downturn as well as a big business. So what might explain my vote, the smaller the business, the more sensitive they are to these downturns. So, but if a business is not back to pre-pandemic levels, the door is open, and then we look at, is the remedy that the applicant proposing, is the remedy they're proposing a short-term fix or a long-term fix? And the town council has said they want long-term fixes, not short-term fixes. So how do we recognize that? Not always easy. And we do the best we can. I mean, I've seen prior meetings, you know, we struggle to find what that means. But for me, if the grant applicant is looking for things like operating expenses, that looks more like a short-termy kind of an application, which would not earn a good score, at least the way I'm doing it. If they're looking to purchase some machinery or renovate or something that lasts beyond 6 months or a year, that makes it a much stronger application. And then what I do is I look at if the proposed fix is realistic, or is it speculative, or is it sort of just not going to work? I mean, they put something down as to what they want to do, but is the plan really feasible, and is it going to turn it around? Is it going to turn the business around? I kind of look at that. And then finally, we've struggled with the documentation, which has been a weak point on a lot of these applications. The instructions said, we want documentation, meaning information from a third party that back up the amounts that you want to spend using your ARPA money. So if you're going to buy something, is there a quote from a supplier, a quote from a catalog, a quote from Amazon, you know, something that backs that up? And we've not seen a lot of that, but some applications have been very diligent. They've got good scores, you know, in part because of that. So in any event,
Mike, can I point something
I
out?
just wanted to get that up before I go to Lando. Yeah.
May I
Just Carl, this is
interject?
Carl
When
speaking.
when you look at the Schedule Cs, it's very important not to only look at the gross numbers of some of these small businesses. Mike is absolutely right. The smaller the scale of the business, the bigger the impact. It's so easy to look at the gross revenue numbers of these businesses. You see this business, for example, gross revenue from 53 to 47. But in 2020, what a lot of small businesses and mid-sized businesses did, because supplies and inflationary macro events made them purchase an extraordinary amount of supplies. You had plywood at $72 a sheet when normalized levels price point were $18. They're now descended down to $38, still not normalized. So when you look at a business like this, you see a profit of $25,455,000 in 2020, and that in the eyes on a general level, you would say, well, wow, they haven't really have a you know, really gotten a low amount of profit. The reason is just because you have depreciation inside those Schedule Cs that mitigate and reduce and add back to the profit. So if you look at 2019, this business, and I think this is going to be the case in many other businesses, they went from line 22 from 9,000.
Are you looking at a specific application?
I'm looking at a specific application for CMST.
Oh,
I'm just pointing out.
we're going to get to that.
Yeah, I
And
just want to point out
you're
that,
leading off. So I just want to,
Yeah.
you'll have keep your powder dry.
all right, you got it.
All
You
right,
got it.
that'll be part of your presentation.
I thought you were going to take a swing at it.
No, I'm doing Landau and you're doing CMST.
Oh, okay.
All right. So you'll have,
Sorry.
so I'm going to start off with Landau. So.
You got it.
So this is the application of ME Landau LLC DBA Custom Kitchen Designs. This is what I see. I mean, I'm going to excerpt parts of the application. You can't read the whole thing, obviously. There's no need for us to do that. But I want to read parts of it to set the context. And they said that the clients were unwilling to meet in person, either at the showroom or by allowing Mr. Landau into their homes because of COVID. And he also had reservations for in-person meetings due to the unknown of the pandemic. And the vendors that he subcontracted with also had their reservations regarding exposure to the virus as well. He says the business barely operated for most of 2020. Business eventually began to pick up. He goes on to say another part of the application that his plan is to possibly relocate to a more desirable and cost-efficient location, maybe updating samples and display merchandiser units that are available. Planning on developing a marketing campaign and other details. As always, I look first to the numbers and see what story they tell. And what I see is a business that has not gotten back to pre-pandemic levels. And comparing, there was a tidy profit in 2019, but the gross sales and the gross income dropped in 2020, and it came back a titch in 2021, but still not back up to the pre-pandemic. That goes to the net, which took a big hit in 2020 and came back in 2021, but you're still not there. So the way I looked at this as My scores are tentative till I hear everyone else, but I gave it a pretty strong score, or very strong score in many of the categories of the degree to which the pandemic created or contributed to the financial adversity. I see that quite clearly. The degree to which it demonstrated the degree to which the applicant demonstrated that the project will assist the business in long-term recovery. I see that. To me, that's pretty clear. The budget I thought was a weaker, but it's a more minor of a category. And the timeline, I didn't see anything problematic with the timeline. Everything seemed to be in the control of the applicant. So I gave this easily a passing grade. Who wants to take the first swing? And then you got CMST. You don't have to take the swing on this. You got the next one coming. Who wants to take the first swing on this? And then we'll go. Okay, Bob, and then we'll go around clockwise.
Not on this particular application, I understand everything's going on, but I saw some other applications. They give us more detailed financials. In there, it explained that some people were receiving unemployment, and I wish we knew some of the programs that people were participating in this during COVID, because that did sustain many people during the pandemic. I'm not saying this one, I'm just saying that. And the other thing is on some of these smaller ones, not going for this one, but just in general, the amount of money that the town is giving out is up to 25,000. We can make a recommendation for less. I'm not saying for this one, but some of these that we're going to see are $3,000. They have $7,000 in sales, yet they're asking for 25,000. Can we alter those? I just bring that up so before they come up, so we don't pick it, because this is a small one also. This one I scored pretty close to passing, right in that range. I would just like to see more financials on some of these. One that came through.
Likewise, if the documentation does show a definite hit from the pandemic, and it's the proposed project does seem to assist the business in the long term. I was disappointed in the fact that the budget, there's no supporting documentation from budget. And it seems to be that it will occur in a reasonable timeline. So yes, it passes, as small businesses if they hit. I just wish there was more.
Chris?
I tend to agree with everything that was said. Don't have anything else to say.
Rob?
Yeah, I agree, and I just want to emphasize that I went down through almost all of these applications. Almost very few of these applications have that independent documentation to support what their expenses. So if we would have to almost eliminate 90% of them without that. So I agree with everything that it was definitely COVID related. They provided the tax returns. They showed a need. It's a good project. So I approve it. I think we should award the money as well.
Yeah.
I agree with everybody, and I say go for it.
Carl?
I could not agree more. I think we're being a little bit overly critical. We're analyzing lack of documentation. You have a small business with a very moderate to high impact. The numbers speak to themselves in terms of declining numbers. If that were the case, if we were going to re-examine those to that level, we would probably reject a majority. So this is a strong 85 for me. Pass.
Everybody ready to turn them in?
Yeah.
Sign them. Sign them, Dave.
Yeah, I thought we want to hand.
Can someone man the adding machine?
Staff.
You can do.
I don't want to
do
do
both.
Very, very talented.
I know. That's why we picked. Yeah. All the score sheets in?
Nope. I'm sorry. I'm doing mine. 40, 15, 18. Oh, I'm sorry.
Anywhere.
I thought.
You
Oh, I don't care.
Yeah, read them all. When you get them all. Slow and.
Yes.
I'm not gonna.
Chris, pass yours to me. So that.
Rob was already given.
Sorry.
Got them all in?
Right.
Okay,
All right.
Chris Regan, 80. This is for Fritz. Fritz, 85. Jackie McNamee, 85. Amy Walsh, 80. Gross, 75. This must be. Nico, is
Yes.
that yours?
that's me.
Oh, that's for this
Andrew
year?
Broginski.
Okay, 84. And then this is yours.
Yes.
You didn't sign it.
Nope. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. 85. Bonamico, 85.
557. 82 average.
82. So the average score is 82. Passing is 70. I would make therefore a motion that the committee recommend for further favorable approval the application of M.E. Landau in the amount of, and I'm looking, I'm positive it's 25,000. I just want my eye to fall down in the amount of $25,000. I need a second and then we'll do a roll
Second.
call. Carl seconds that. We'll have a formal roll call. So Carl, yes or no?
Yes.
Verbinski is yes, Craig is absent, Rob Fritz.
Yes.
Mike Glidden is absent, Bob Gross.
Yeah.
Jacqueline McNamee.
Yes.
Chris Regan.
Yes.
Jesse Reynolds. Abstained, recused, and Amy Walsh is yes. That carries and we're ready for the next.
There's no stapler tonight.
I didn't bring it tonight. I know.
You
Just
can go home again.
put it in the envelope and. Okay, the next on the agenda is CMST. Carl, that's assigned to you.
All
What do you
right,
see?
took a look at this company. I've seen companies this size very often in terms of the pandemic impact. You know, the proportionality of the impact. You look at these three returns, especially what was happening in 20. General contractors were purchasing supplies because it was increasing at an alarming rate. As I pointed out by the example of plywood. Sheetrock was almost 500% higher in pricing. That's why you see the enormous supply in 2020 of $19,000. To me, it had a very, they provided a very reasonable rationale why they're asking what they're asking in terms of their long-term usage. Seems very reasonable for me for this kind of construction company. I voted not a super strong, but a very passing score of 75 for me.
Who wants to take the next swing and we'll go clockwise from there? Anybody for the next swing? Jackie, Amy,
Yeah, likewise, tax returns showed a drop in the business, revenues. And then, the project is replacing one tool and adding a manufacturing lines to expanding business, so it's a long-term, business expansion. And reasonable timeline, so yeah, we gave it a high rating.
Bob Gross.
I was mixed on this one. I'm not looking at their gross income, but their net was there and it's up now. So, they did receive a little PPP money. The thing we're looking for businesses that are still negatively impacted. So I'm right on the line on this one.
Okay. I'm in line, so I'll second the next one. I look at the numbers first and there was a hit in 2020. came back in 2021. Sort of a nice recovery, but didn't shoot the moon on it, but did better in 2021. Got a little PPP to help them through it. This is a small business, in my mind, a small business kind of on the edge. It's in that category where the smaller you are, the more vulnerable you are. And even though he's exceeded, but not by much, the pre-pandemic levels, I gave it a passing score. It's above 70, not a lot above 70, but enough to make it a passing grade in my book. Jackie.
I agree. It's a small business and they did show a hit. I think what they're looking to do I believe is to slow their business. So I also gave it a passing, but a low passing.
Yeah, I agree with everything that you said. I gave it kind of a-
Chris?
The only note that I have is the $25,000 SBA loan, which is still being paid back. Being about the same amount that they're requesting is a cause of concern. Scored it above passing, but nothing.
Jesse?
Yeah, I wasn't at the table at the last discussion. I struggled with a lot of these because the documentation is just tough. I think with a business this size, I think that, as Carl pointed out, that they were adversely affected by huge markups and things like that. So I gave it a passing score, not a high passing score, but a passing.
We're ready to score. Turn them in. Okay. Initial them, date them.
Michael, I have a question. You were referring to specific accounts that we need to review. You would represent the first one. See a list. I don't know how to give a.
It's on the agenda. I have you down.
Yeah, okay, this would be, yeah, I didn't see the. Okay. That was what worried me. I didn't see my initials on there. I wanted to make sure
Are you there?
No, so I'm good.
You're good.
Yeah, I'm good. I just wanted to make sure I was prepared. I didn't see my initials and I wanted to make sure I didn't see them. I'm good. Thank you. Jeez.
Wait a minute.
You lucked out.
Oh,
He forgot about you.
I hit you double.
Next time, yeah.
I don't like the driving today. I don't need to. I'm glad I can. Take off, Claire.
Gonna hit you double.
I'll do that.
Sure.
You should have called.
That's randomized.
Brandon is over here.
Jackie McNamee, 75. Rob Bliss, 85. Chris Regan, 75. Carl Flamingo, 75. Mike Radinsky, 75. Rose, 70. Jesse Reynolds, 75. And Amy Walsh, 85.
Divided by 8.
8%, yeah.
76.8.
76. I'm looking.
The people they want this too much.
I'm just double checking the application for the amount of the request. I think it's 25, but
Yes, it is.
is that right?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I thought. So I would entertain a motion that we recommend further favorable action in the amount of $25,000 in the matter of CMST Construction LLC. Carl seconds. Because it's a score that's above passing, I'm not going to do a roll call anymore. I'm just going to ask for abstentions or objections. Otherwise, it'll be unanimous. Any abstentions or nay votes? Then that by acclamation is unanimously passed. Cliffside Brewing is the next one.
That one you had tracker says withdrawn, so it wasn't.
It's not. That was, I sent an email around today and I got the color coding wrong. So I'm taking that on because I didn't prepare anyone from that. I should have given it to Rob Fritz. Somebody should have.
We'll make it up.
First, we should note for everybody that the tracker from the consultant tells us that only a portion of the request meets ARPA eligibility. The use of funds for EDIL in the amount of $7,800 for 1 year is not ARPA allowable. So whatever we decide to do, we need to take that into account. This is a brewery and tap room. The application says they had trouble during the pandemic. At one time, the tap room was full, and then they were making money, they say in the application, and then the pandemic hits and they lost their customer base. I look at the numbers and what I see is in 2019, the pre-pandemic base that we have, there was a gross, a tidy little gross, but according to the financial records, there was a loss in 2019. The gross went down drastically in 2020 and the net showed a bigger loss in 2020 and an even a bigger loss in 2021. There was an EIDL loan of 136. This is a bit of trouble for me. And the question is, to what degree is the proposed remedy going to turn this around? And I see from my score that I wasn't persuaded that what they wanted to do was in the end going to be a long-term and not a temporary fix. That's the second row. That's the one with the most points assigned to it. And on a percentage basis, I scored that as the lowest. I did see on the top row that the pandemic certainly created or contributed to the pandemic. It's everything that follows that gives me pause. I thought the budget was weak and the timeline is within his control. So there's some sort of a mediocre score there, but that's what bothers me. A business that started out struggling is continuing to struggle. I'm just not sure that ARPA grant is going to do anything in this particular case. I'm sure the applicant doesn't see it that way. But the current adversity needs to be caused by the pandemic and, not by other business factors. But I want to hear what everyone else has to say about it. At this point, I do not have a passing grade. I do not have a passing grade for Cliffside. Who wants to take the first swing? Yeah. Chris.
I tend to agree. It's a pretty big concern of the EIDI loan of 135,000. This is not a means in which to pay that off or even a portion of that, which is still extremely significant. And I'm not entirely sure that the keeping the lights on or keeping the building accessible is still very much important, but without a significant investment in advertising or signage or some business metrics that we can do. I just can't give it.
Jesse.
Yeah, I struggled with this one. As I read these, I kind of get depressed and feel terrible for what these folks must be going through. But in this case, I was also a little confused by the amount of money requested and then the way that the money was sort of itemized in terms of where it was gonna go. Like, I understand, I'm imagining these are monthly payments that they have to make that are itemized, but how it adds up to 25,000 is kind of beyond me. And then you mentioned the EIDL repayment, which you had said that they're not supposed to be using the money for. So even though I feel terrible reading these, I didn't feel confident in this one, so I didn't give it a passing score.
Amy?
Yeah, likewise, this was a tough one to read. The use of funds. I was tripped up by the use of funds for EIDL, so, thank you for clarifying that, and the, there was a loss before the pandemic and there's still a loss, so. The use of funds doesn't seem to be expanding the business to be able to address that loss.
Yeah, I agree that the debt that he has is greater and growing, and the payments, and I didn't like the budget. I don't see how that's going to make the business bloom or grow. That's just paying off some debt isn't going to make his business grow. What's his plan to make the business move forward? So I was below half.
Carl?
The drop in income because of the pandemic was devastating. You look at the numbers, the adverse economic impact was devastating. It was weak on some of the project and some of the long-term fixes. There's no doubt, but you cannot ignore, and many of the breweries are in the same predicament. You could look at these in terms of the EIDL loan. I can assure all of the panel here, I can't express enough how many businesses received it. And in many cases, frankly, I would debate they should not have received it. This was not a strong score for me, but we cannot ignore the adverse economic impact when you go for a small business of 90,000 to that level. It is emblematic of a small business. I gave it a 70 score.
Jackie?
I agree with everyone's comments. This was a hard one. It's a business. It's on small business on Center Street. And the same thing, I got stumped on the loan, so I also gave it a non-passing score.
Rob?
I'm right on Carl's comments. I think that, when I looked at this, I really focused on did COVID impact their business? And, this is, again, I don't think it's as strong. They're not trying to change the business model at all necessarily, but they were an ongoing business prior to COVID, and COVID decimated their income. And so for that reason, I think that certainly, I gave them probably the lowest score that I have of the night, but it's passing score 70. Because I feel that, if not for COVID, they might have been able to weather the current situation a little better. So I gave it 70.
Okay, we've covered everyone's. Anyone want another bite at it? Let's pass them in, sign them, date them, pass them in. I'm not addressing that 7,800 now because it looks like it's not going to pass. If it does, then we'll address that 78 in a separate vote. All the scores are in.
No.
All right, it's just
7. I know.
Oh.
yeah, that's fine.
Amy Wall. Oh, yes, there it is.
Hold on.
Yeah, tell me when you're ready.
Yeah.
Amy Wall, 45. Rose, 60. Carl Von Miko, 70. Jesse Reynolds, 65. Rob Fritz, 70. Jackie McNamee, 55. Chris Regan, 60. Mike Rodinsky, 53. And that's 8.
Okay. So I would make a motion that we recommend no further favorable action in the matter of Cliffside Brewing. Someone has to second it.
Second.
Bob Gross does. Anyone opposed or abstaining or recusing? Otherwise, it'll be unanimous. You can't because we have an agreement. Once the average score is below
Okay.
70, so it's a formality in a way, but I want to get a vote on the record. Craig tried that the other night. I had to talk to him about it. So that passes unanimously. Okay. Moving down. Aero Manufacturing, everyone please get their laptops fired up or their records fired up. I did not see this was a complete application due to the lack of tax returns. There's P&Ls there, but we had a long debate the other night that P&Ls weren't going to do it. It had to be tax returns. A lot of businesses did provide tax returns. They complied with what the council wanted. And our decision was that a business that did not provide it was deemed incomplete. So does anyone see any?
I don't have a computer. I didn't print it or look at it.
Can you get it up on your,
I have to recuse myself in this.
because one,
It says we're gonna be doing,
hold on one sec. The record should know Carl is recusing himself.
It was very recent. I was able to
No problem.
entertain it.
No problem. Glad you brought it up. When I look at. Hold on one sec. Does anyone else have their,
Yeah, they don't have,
does anyone see tax returns or anything that would make it a complete application?
It's a P and L for.
Just P&L, that's all I saw. But I want this to be a group decision, not just me saying they don't have tax returns. This is a,
But I thought the town council said as long as there's a P&L, then we can go forward with it.
no, I never said that.
that's on not for profit.
That's nonprofits. For profits, they required an audited P&L, which we don't have, or tax returns. The council what?
CPA,
CPA.
not audit.
Same thing.
Yeah, yeah.
So I have a
Oh,
question. I have a
don't tell
question.
that to my dear CPA friends.
So
I have many.
the, what is the group that's reviewing these applications? Sorry.
UHY.
So UHY reviewed these applications and they sent them down because they're them approved. So for me, at this point, I feel as though they didn't do their job, but they sent it down according to them, the profit and loss, it's there, it's approved. So that was their job. Our job is to look at the application, look at the profit, look at the loss, and look at what they're requesting.
What does the tracker say would be my question.
What does UHY say?
Right, so I mean, there was obviously conversations with the consultant subsequent to our last meeting.
I don't know. There might have been.
Stepped up, providing of the tracker, providing of, the summary page associated with both businesses and the not-for-profits to give us the breakdown and everything else. So
So there's a little history there. Yeah. I had a conversation trying to figure out how this started. Well, then two things are going on. The consultant read our agenda. Public record, it's on the website. And it said incomplete for this applicant. The agenda did. And the consultant sent me an email and said, it is complete. They had P&Ls. I did not engage. This is by email. I did not engage because a consultant may not be aware of our policy. We decided after a long debate at the last meeting, someone may think they're complete, but if we don't think they're complete, we can vote not to move them with a favorable recommendation due to their being incomplete. That was last meeting. That falls into this category. I also had a conversation with the law department because of an interim report from UHY about the large number of incomplete applications deemed incomplete by the consultant. And that's what I read at the beginning of the meeting. That email that I got was dated February 14, 2 days ago. But there were interim reports warning that there's a lot of applications that the consultant deemed incomplete. And
But
I
we don't
hope that
have
addresses
those.
your question.
But we
I'm trying
don't
to,
have those. Those are the 18 that aren't here.
that's right.
But the consultant said that these are complete. And I do, I know last time we said that, okay, if there's no tax returns, we're not going to go forward. But
But who rules? Who rules? If the consultant passes to us
then our
an
job is
incomplete
to-
application, do we pretend it's complete?
But their job is to make sure
That
and
may
to
be,
go
you know.
forward that to them, that they were hired to make sure they're complete. So to them, it's complete. So our job is to look at it, look at the profit, look at the loss, see if there was a loss in the business. Does it meet all these scoring things? And for me, go forward because
Where were you last week? You were right here
Because I
pounding the
didn't-
table for tax returns. I
you're correct.
remember it.
Yes, I was.
And
Because
my
that was
head is
prior-
spinning. I can't figure this out.
because that was prior to saying that they said that no, as long as there's a profit and loss, then we can go.
But
forward.
they don't rule. First of all, the council rules, and the council said a complete application is tax returns.
They may have
The
ruled that.
consultant can't overrule the council, and the consultant can't interfere with our job. So
Just real quick, because I think I have a solution, and based on our meeting last week, I thought the resolution was, if it's incomplete, we don't want any of these businesses that are duly in need to be turned down because of a technicality. That just goes against all of the purpose of this and the way it states me for the moment. So I thought the idea was, if it's incomplete, simply send it back to the consultant.
no, our vote was,
Council decide if they want to resubmit it.
our vote was that we report it incomplete to the council, and the council can figure out what to do,
Okay, but they still, the company will still have another opportunity based on what the council decides.
I guess.
Yeah, okay.
I guess.
But I mean, we're not gonna vote.
On
we're
the
not gonna
merits,
vote
no.
it down to, we're just gonna simply send it back.
No, the vote last week was that we would vote no favorable action due to the fact that the application is incomplete. The council would get that and do whatever they want, but it wouldn't be an on the merits,
Okay.
an on the merits decision. And that was after a couple of votes last week, we decided to escalate it, signaling the fact that it was incomplete.
How do we know that is the council? Let me ask. I agree 100% with him, in terms of. The P and Ls are very often accepted, almost broadly accepted by financial institutions because they're an extension from prior year. Okay. I'm not convinced unless it's in writing from the council that would not be, it would be deemed incomplete if they had a tax, unless they had a tax return. Do we know that it's been in writing, communicated to us?
Well, here's what we know. Bob, I'm coming around. Hold on.
Because it appears to me, I
Let me
think they
deal
said.
with this end of the table, then I'll block them off and we'll deal with this. end.
Sure.
Here's what we know. The council had sporadic but consistent discussions. Sporadic means that like it started in February 2022,
Understand.
when the consultant first appeared in front of the council and said, I'm in favor of self-declaration. No documentation at all. They sign under oath, and that's all you need. That went over like a lead balloon with the town council. They didn't like it, and they consistently insisted on something more authoritative than self-declaration. Sporadically, but consistently, they stuck with tax returns or audited P&Ls. That was their decision. So the consultant, it frankly, was a little bit off the reservation in taking it upon itself to disembowel what the council had expressly
I
decided.
really don't blame them.
So is it in writing from the council? Absolutely. It's in the application form that they decided on. It's right there. You read it. That's what they were supposed to provide, tax returns. That was the council
Or
vote.
account
said-
approved,
That's what you
Or-
just said, or a accountant.
Audited.
P&L, right?
audited.
Audited.
You said accountant.
It's basically the same thing, right?
Well,
You know, I can tell you, even for $1 million loan or $2 million loan, we accept P&Ls driven by QuickBooks.
Let me,
This is the problem. Like I
Go
said,
ahead.
you know, this is the problem. If the company submitted this documentation with the P and L, and according to the word that they got back from the consultant, which that was acceptable, it's not the business's fault for not having that documentation if they were advised that this is acceptable. Now, if the consultant was wrong, now presenting it to us and it was a disagreement, the company should not be compromised or penalized as a result. And I think that's my opinion. I don't know if that took place, but if they did their best effort and they thought and they were told it was correct, that documentation at the time.
I have to support
Peter
that.
Pottinger, what we decided after like a 35-40 minute debate last meeting is we're not penalizing them subject to, because the council can do whatever they want.
Okay.
It says due to being incomplete. So if the council decides to adopt the Rob Fritz rule, that the business should not be penalized, and the Jackie McNamara, the business should not be penalized, they can do whatever they want. They can bring the parties together and say, did you tell this business that profit and losses were okay? And they can hash it out.
But you said that.
But
Is there some memo or somewhere where we can see that it says P&Ls from an accountant are acceptable in addition to for a tax
They're
return?
not acceptable.
the only thing I can do is repeat myself. And
Right, but you said P&L is acceptable.
P&L never said, we never said it's acceptable. Hold on one sec, hold on one sec.
We didn't create
I know,
the
hold on one
rules.
sec. We never said P&L was acceptable, and the council never said P&Ls are acceptable. I'll be back to you.
Yeah, thank you for recognizing.
I'm sorry.
So the application says that I printed out, please attach and submit the following: completed application, copy of GRS service status letter, business trade name certificate if applies, CPA issued profit and loss statement 2019, 2020, 2021, or tax returns with redacted personal information. CPA issued profit and loss statement. So I also look at the tracking document for this application, and it says that the text is super small, but that on 117 they requested additional information, and it was 117 email document request sent and received. Don't know what email documents were sent requested. Don't know what kind of follow-up the consultant did. I think this is, it is unfortunate that there's no project manager for this project. So we are seeing the results of the fact that there's no project, there's no one shepherding this through. Everybody thinks the consultants is doing it, but sometimes they do other things. So yeah, I think we should hand this back to the council as you know, we were unable to move forward. Yeah, I agree that it's tough for the business, but it's also not fair to the other businesses who did provide tax returns and were nervous about providing tax returns and things like
But
that.
that's not the, they
But
said
it says
for
profit and
P&L.
loss.
Hold on one sec. Hold on one sec.
CPA.
I'm ignoring this end of the table for the next 5 minutes because I ignored them and I heard about it. Wow.
What do you mean? I don't
So
think-
CPA issued profit and loss, whatever that means, yes.
They don't distinguish if you get an accrual basis or cash basis, profit and loss look exactly the same coming from a CPA, and they do that is coming from QuickBooks. All they do is export the profit and loss from QuickBooks, which looks exactly, unless you validate it with a credential and a stamp on it. So you can't differentiate the two. If it's derived from a QuickBooks, it is a P&L, it's valid, and we accept that up to $25 million at a bank. I can't
That's your
imagine.
problem.
No, it isn't.
We can do
It's
better than that. We can do much better than that.
But,
P&Ls are
but given the fact,
worthless to me. I mean,
Well,
I'm just telling you.
Yeah.
Let me just turn
I
away and
agree.
go to Bob.
And
Yeah.
I think that we should either two things. One is we weren't planning on discussing this one tonight.
Because we already discussed it. But we did.
But I feel
No,
like-
I'm talking about the application itself.
Yeah, right.
The application itself, but
Right.
and I agree, it was a 9-1 vote. I was the only one who said that stuff should go back to people because the way that it was worded, and I know this, that one, you had, some people say one chance to pass in, but no, they said, get in your applications. If the documentation isn't there, that who was ever reviewing the first run would send it back to you and give you an opportunity to send it in. Now, I don't know, Amy's reading that there. I don't know what they looked for, of course, because I didn't look at this application because I didn't think we were doing it. So I think that we should wait and find out what what they looked for, and did they get that? Because they might have, after this tax return, and might have that tax return, as we did the first applicant tonight, who passed in one tonight with a tax return originally that had nothing on it. And then they asked them for a tax return with proper information. So if you do for one, you do for the other. That's the way I think.
25% of all businesses don't have their tax returns.
That is not relevant. I'm sorry.
I understand
How many
that.
times I can
No,
say that?
but it was clear.
It's not our call.
No, but they do have a tax return. They have to pass it. They have a tax return. They have to pass something into the feds.
Well, it's an extension.
Well.
I'm just going by the town council and everybody said, as long as there's a profit and loss. And it shows, meets all the other criteria, then we can go forward. There's a profit and loss.
Well.
I don't think we
Amy,
can.
are you done?
Yeah.
Can I say something?
This side of the
I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I completely, listen, I completely agree with all of you that, you know, that this is kind of a messy situation and unfortunate. However, if I'm looking at this independently, I have no idea where this came from. Like, I don't know who generated this. I don't know where it came from. And if it says CPA issued and I'm just somebody that's looking for stuff, then I can't guarantee that that came from anything other than like my own quickness.
Jesse, they're certifying at the end, falsifying information. You cannot tell me somebody is going to put a
I'm not
profit loss.
suggesting.
And they do that with PPP loans and the tax returns that we file annually for corporate and personal. So when you certify,
Yeah,
that is the ultimate seal.
I totally get all that, but the whole point of it is if the materials aren't what they're supposed to be, then I have no problem with sending it back and saying, is this okay? If they say, yeah, go forward, go ahead, do it, then I'm fine with that. But until that happens.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like an opportunity to see this more than in 3 minutes and then make a decision on it too. So whether we decide to look at this application, I don't think we should look at it tonight. I think we should give us time to, because I look at these applications, I think we should have the opportunity to look at it and not just on the spur of the moment. If that's the way you want to go. I mean,
Well, the solution,
I'm always for a second chance of the
I'm
hour.
waiting for a pause, so I know.
The pause is now.
And I'll wait for another pause.
Okay.
The remedy that we voted on last time was perfect. The council made this criteria, and the council can waive that criteria being tax returns. Consultant has no authority to do that. Sorry. Consultant cannot overrule the town council, or if you would like, we could send a memo to the town council. Dear town council, the consultant overruled you and you're not really serious about tax returns. We could do that. I'm being playful, obviously. But the remedy we voted on last time was perfect. It goes back to the town council. It's in their hands. They sort it out. We're not the project manager. We can't be a surrogate project manager. We can't go running down rabbit holes, you know, dear consultant, give us the email history of your efforts, so on and so forth. This needs to be escalated to the town council and they can do justice in any way they see fit. If it ends up back on our desk, we're happy to review it on the merits. The town council wants to have a debate. Yeah, you know, that Carl Bonamico has a point. P&Ls are good, just as good, but that's not our decision.
Application, it says P&Ls are good. I'm confused
No,
why
they don't.
No, it doesn't.
See,
No, it doesn't.
read it.
No, audited, had to be audited.
Issues profit loss. There's nothing on that P and L that says it's CPA issue.
That's my whole point.
I will show you a dozen
Yeah,
CPA.
But it says that.
We're
It
going,
wants that seal on it. It wants something on there besides just me sending it in.
we're going in circular. So here's what we do. Either we take a vote that it's going back to the council per last meeting's decision, going back to the council as no recommendation of further favorable action due to the fact that they're incomplete. If if that doesn't pass, then we'll go to Plan B and we'll argue for another hour.
I think my
mean,
point is simply this, and
Yeah.
I agree with what you said. I think we're being so surgical in the interpretation that it may be really negatively impacting some businesses who truly need this stimulation.
So,
Well.
yeah,
Yeah, no, I'm sorry. I was gonna say, the good news is this company here, if we were to send it back, and I understand that it's dark, there's a gray area, it's slippery slope, right? But if you send it back, this company will, I think, cooler heads will look at some of this information. Well, same conclusion we have, and I think within a week or two, we'll have their own decision back here with clarity from the town council, and we'll be able to vote on that. I'm confident that in the end, that's gonna happen. So we have a lot of other applications we gotta move forward on.
yeah. So I'm gonna,
I'd like to make what Carl just said, yeah, let's just, Rob said, let's just move it forward.
here's how we do it.
Common sense.
Here's how we do it.
I hope common sense prevails. Yeah.
Here's how we do it. So in accordance with last meeting's decision, I'm making a motion that we recommend to the council that it take no further favorable action due to the fact that the application is incomplete. Bing. Seconded. So get your no pencil ready. We're gonna do a roll call. Or yes.
And
Carl,
so no favorable action going back to council.
say that again.
So this goes back to council.
On the
or-
report, the report will say, these we acted on favorably, these unfavorably on the merits.
And it's-
The third category
It's unknowable how they will respond to that, correct?
It's unknown.
That's my fear.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's a yes. Berdinsky is a yes. Fishbein is absent. Rob Fritz.
Yeah.
Mike Glidden is absent. Jacqueline McNamee,
Yes.
Chris Regan.
Yes.
Jesse Reynolds,
Yes.
Amy Walsh.
Yes.
Okay,
Not to let me vote, because you know I was gonna vote no.
I'm just being playful with the guy, you know, we sit next to him. I gotta get along.
No, you didn't call Bob.
You didn't call.
You didn't call
No,
him.
so I'm being serious, I didn't vote. I
Oh, you
voted
didn't
no.
vote?
I vote no, I feel that they should be given the opportunity to send in the application,
Oh, okay, so that's a no for you.
right, because I feel that they should send it in, and they should be given the
I got you.
opportunity to send in
I got
a
you.
revised, tax return, it's like all along, it's that they should be allowed to,
Okay,
any company.
So can I just bring up something before we continue on the next application? Food for thought. The consultant now marks complete or incomplete. Do we second guess them?
Yes.
And
Yeah,
do we
absolutely.
evaluate every single one on the list? Not just the 81, the 18, and the other 84 applications as well.
well, I think it was raised last time that I think Amy raised it, but I think everyone was dancing around with this, or getting close to the issue. Some omissions can be immaterial, de minimis. Others go right to the core of the merits of the application, and tax returns, it was thought, go right to the core, right to the heart, right to the credibility of the financial case that the applicant must make. And tax returns were, the only thing we decided on. There were other ideas from, Bob Gross and Mike Glidden, that documentation backing up the budget request should be included in that essential documentation, but we never got that far. There wasn't a consensus for that. So I think, and we talked in terms of, it's a case by case, except for tax returns. That's an automatic referral back. But otherwise, it's a case by case as to how material each committee member thinks the omission is. And if they think it's material, until we have another vote like this one, you reduce the score. Do you think that omission warrants a reduced score?
Sure. It's
And-
built in.
Yeah, it could be. And
Just food for thought.
yeah.
What is the reasonable expectation when we return these applications and we, as we just voted on, to expect that this, an outcome from what their decision is going to be about getting them back potentially? I mean, is the protocol a week, 2 weeks, or never? Or do we get some sort of general consensus from them?
I think you want a projection as to how they're going to react.
Yes.
Is that what you're?
Yes, and,
Yeah.
and what's the protocol? They just, hey, Mike, by email, they don't comply by not having completed tax returns. Was that a week, 2 weeks, or they can have no response?
So just the way government works, my report goes to all the counselors, the law department, and the mayor's office. The law department has taken upon itself to be the liaison with the consultant and the go-between counsel and consultant. So my best guess, 52%, 48, is that the law department would take it up in any way it feels is most expeditious, either putting it on the council agenda with, submitted by the law department. That's a 52%er. I've already, on the other hand, any counselor could put it on the agenda and pound the table and say, what is that committee doing? And cause a discussion. 4 months later, we may have a clear decision, as to what they want to do. But I think typically the law department takes this and deals with it somehow.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Ready?
So for those businesses that really truly need the stimulus, may be further extended out another 4 months, 5 months. Potentially. And again, it's not for us to decide. I understand.
2 years, it's been 2 years. For the
2 years.
Centerpiece
Exactly.
Behavioral Health Services, Carl, that's,
Yeah, I think the council wants to get this done as much as we do. They've got, we all know they got a whole other half that they gotta do. So I think this half, they want to get done and put it to bed. So I think that they'll probably act on it relatively quickly.
I hope so.
You know, we want to get these businesses.
look, I tell you, I had a conversation about what in the law we call a last chance letter. I don't know if anyone wants to do it or could do it or should do it. I don't know if, anyone deserves a second chance or how many deserve, a last chance. A last chance letter, again, in personnel work or in law work is having an employee who just doesn't perform. And they've been warned and progressive discipline and so on and so forth. But after a while, the employer's patience runs out and they send a letter, your last chance, shape up or ship out. And you give them 2 weeks or 1 week, and whether the consultant wants to do that, the law department wants to do that, the council wants it done, I don't know. They don't pay me $400 an hour to solve their problems.
Got it.
If they did, the problem would be solved.
Again,
But they don't pay me to do that. And I don't want to run down rabbit holes, trying to be the go-between and can't you get these tax returns? Not my job. I got enough to do. So they're big boys and girls over there at town hall. We send them a report as to what we've done, and they should know what to do. I mean, I tell you, Mike, do I appear a little frustrated?
no, I
No,
think
you're-
positive. Yeah. No.
Do you agree with that? Damn it. Okay, that made me stricken.
Darn it.
So Centerpiece Behavioral Health. Centerpiece Behavioral Health Systems, Carl.
Oh, we're back on the agenda.
This is your initials.
Yeah, we look at the numbers of this organization, definitely have a health impact. They want to be able to utilize the funds for interns. The mission here is really, what happened through the pandemic, there's been a mental and health impact. I found this to be a very strong case. They were very thorough in their write-up. I voted this a very strong, I gave it a strong score.
Who wants to take the first swing after that, and then we'll go around the table. First swing, anybody? Somebody?
I'll go.
Jesse.
I have a background working in mental health services, although from the research side, and I also work in public health right now, and we work a lot with COVID, and I know that this is really targeted at an important gap in our town. Anyone who tries to seek mental health services for their child locally will find that there are waiting lists and all kinds of things. And so I'm all in favor of companies that want to formally address this. The only issue, and it's kind of like the main issue that I had, is I'm back to the one that we just talked about before. I don't understand where the money's going. Like, they list out specifically training certifications, cognitive behavioral certifications. I realize all these things come at a cost, but they're itemized at amounts that don't add up to the full 25,000, unless I'm missing a detail or I'm looking at the wrong one. And I think this one gave us, did this one give us two? No.
Yeah.
Yeah, it did.
291 to 250.
I think 291 had the cutoff. Yeah, 291 looked like it had a cutoff. So 259 is the right one. Right. So I'm looking at 259, and that's sort of my biggest hangup right now. I all on board with what they want to do. I see that they had a negative impact. They experienced a negative impact from it. They make a point with that, but and they want to address COVID proactively, which kind of gets to the long-term solution thing. I just don't understand the financial element of what the 25,000 is purely going to go for, because the budget will include training and so forth, but it lists off 6 specific things, and if you total them up, it does not come to $25,000. And so, how many people are going to get this? You know, that kind of stuff. So that's sort of where I am right now. I really like the idea, but I don't understand the financial element of it. And if Mike were here and his way, we would have thrown this one out because they didn't itemize as well. So just throwing that call back to last meeting.
I also had a hard time with this for the budget. I mean, I recognize the need and the, this one kind of struck me as like a mission focused one, in that they're looking to educate interns and train up interns. So it's not necessarily affecting the business in the long term. It was unclear in the application whether it would help the business grow in the long term, but definitely help training in an area that is needed in the community long term. So, like Jesse, the budget was not detailed out as far as it was like individual costs, but not how many people total would be treated.
Yeah, I had an issue with this one. I mean, if they're gonna hire some new people, that's gonna bring income in. So I don't know why the COVID money would pay to hire the new people, because if you're having new patients either will be paying or reimbursed through insurance, unless you're giving free care, which they did not mention that they're opening up a clinic to help underserved people of that nature. This is a for-profit business. So I had a hard time with that, and of course the documentation on that part and how they, not documentation per se, but how they came up with their number. I don't see how they came up with the numbers that they did. So I couldn't pass this one.
I'm next in line, and then it'll be Jackie, and then. I'm looking at the numbers, which to me is the most important place to look. And I see that their gross tripled since pre-pandemic. It doubled in 2020 and went way up again in 2021. So I was not at all persuaded that the pandemic created their financial adversity. The pandemic was responsible for their financial success. That may be why their gross is up and their net is up. I'm not sure, it's unclear, but there is no financial adversity here compared to the caused by the pandemic. They've come back strong. the way they want to use the money seems to be hire first, train first, and then look for customers. Very often business models are the reverse. You have a ton of customers, you don't have the staff to service them. You find your customers are leaving because of poor service, you hire staff. This seems to be in the reverse. So I don't see that their use of the money addresses an adverse impact or a hardship or adversity caused by the pandemic. A lot of businesses would love to triple their pre-pandemic gross, and their net doubled, almost doubled since pre-pandemic times. It just is not a good fit for the criteria we're given. Jackie, I think you're next because Carl started.
Yes, so I had a difficult time with this one because I am a therapist. And like Jesse said, I mean, I get 15 new calls a day for kids, and I'm completely booked. So there is a need for children. I do know the ins and outs of a therapy program, running my own business. It doesn't. There's free trainings, there's cheaper trainings. The interns are free. They're going to make money off the interns. The interns are at school getting trained in these things. I feel really horrible saying this. I pay for my own trainings. I don't know. You have a business, you have to continue with training. We're required. They're required to do training, whether they pay for their own training or the agency pays for the training. It's not an agency for me, and I feel horrible, but or low pass.
Yeah, no, okay.
You know, yeah, these services businesses, the way this is listed here, I know because they seem to have bounced back a little bit more aggressively. There's a tendency to say they don't need the money. They were impacted, but alternatively, were they impacted? Were they impacted by COVID? Yes. Do they, are they going to use the money to help grow? Yes. To recover from that? Yes. And the fact that they recovered better from other businesses, I don't think should matter as much, in my opinion. And do they have a plan? Yes. So I would pass it.
Chris,
I have nothing more to add.
okay. Did we cover, anyone want a second or third bite of the apple? Okay, let's- Arnament?
Should-
Was just shooting out down by the
She's working for one more current justice.
All right, I was recommending laugh.
Okay, take your time.
Take a picture. Really, very good.
Jesse Reynolds.
Let's take it.
Carl Bonamico, 85. Jackie McNamee, 40. Chris Regan, 56. Rob Fritz, 85. Mike Brzezinski, 44. Gross, 55. And Amy Law, 45.
85.
58, 75.
I hope that's a good thing.
So based on that average score, I make a motion that we recommend that no further favorable action be taken in the matter of Centerpiece Behavioral Health Services. Seconded by,
Second.
anyone opposed or abstaining? Otherwise it'll be unanimous per,
I'm abstaining.
yes, you are. Did you recuse yourself? No, you're just abstaining.
I'm just abstaining.
I thought you couldn't, because we already.
You really can't. You really.
Well, you asked the question, so I simply
It's pro
replied.
forma. It's pro forma.
Well, I'm also pro forma.
Put him
formality
down for
responding.
abstaining. Put him down for abstaining.
You must eradicate that question out of the
I'm
equation.
We're gonna do a roll call.
I'm following the policy.
I know.
He's
I got
no
bit by
longer
my own-
allowed.
Bit by my own expedience. So now we're down to body and soul. Craig Fishbein was gonna do that, but I'm taking over for Craig, so. Here's what I saw on body and soul. Full service, day spa and salon, the usual services. I'm gonna go right to the numbers. I see, I'm comparing the pre-pandemic with post-pandemic. I see a bounce back from the pandemic. The net certainly went up from pre-pandemic dramatically. The net went up. The net went up in 2021 despite a big increase in the cost of goods sold. They got PPP money of well, they got PPP money. So I can see the hit, but I also see a bounce back, and I put them right on the edge. I haven't decided if I'm passing grade or not a passing grade, but this is a case of bounce back. Who wants to take the first swing after that? Bob Gross.
Going based on what the council said. And they have bounced back. They had the negative year in 2020. But they've come back. This is one of those ones that's right on the edge for me because of the kind of business they're in, but they have come back, like I said. See the numbers there. They did get some PPP, which was in 2020, which made up for their shortfall in that particular year. And in 21, they made everything back to where better than they were in 19. So I have a hard time. And based on the criteria, and this is the point I want to make. I mean, I think everything, but based on the criteria that we were given, this one just doesn't make it because they bounce back. You know, if we look at the criteria.
That's
That's what we're supposed to
argument
do. And that's,
not to. Okay.
that's what I'm saying.
Skipping by me because I started goes to Carl and around.
Significant drop in pandemic, 35% drop in 1 year. That's very significant, very adverse, very negative. Was not a strong score, but it was a pass for me.
Jackie.
Mine was the same, not a strong score, but it was a pass. It was a salon, and I know they all had to close, and we did have a loss in 20.
Was it impacted by COVID significantly? I think one thing we need to take into account, because it's come up a couple of times, you look at the tax returns and say, oh geez, 2021 and 2022, they come back to 2018 level. But I look at it a different way. I say, without COVID, where would they be? And I said, so they've had to scramble, and they've been able to generate. To me, if they can show that they were impacted by COVID, it means that they should be much further than they are now, even if their numbers are the same as 2019. So for that, I think it clicks all the boxes for me, so I give it a pass.
I echo Rob's sentiments. You have the basic question is, if you're in 2021, you were equivalent to your numbers in 2019. And if you were on par with those, are you succeeding or are you behind the curve? Everything is costing more as a result of COVID. The protocols that need to be in place for an organization like this, the additional time that's spent in between clients and customers, they've outlined the individual spend, so it's a pass from me.
Jesse.
Yeah, I gave this one a low passing grade score, whatever. In part because of the financial bounce back. But the one thing that kind of struck me was that, they did go from 7 full-time employees to 4, and they have had staffing issues ever since. And so, if you really think about dollars and cents, I mean, I think a lot of these businesses, you're probably going to see a bounce back after 2020 because, people were sort of excited to get back to their regular kind of way of life. And these types of businesses, I mean, we talk about restaurants, but these types of businesses just got destroyed. And so, they were doing, they had a pretty good business and they were doing good volume, but the fact that they still haven't been able to bring back 3 employees, despite the fact that they have more money, and they only took a PPP loan of 11.5. I mean, we've seen a lot more, companies taking a lot more money. So to me, this, and they itemized their budget justifications and it came to $25,000. So to me, like even right down to the $10,212 for the move reception area, right? So this is all based on, pretty well thought out and like similar to Bob, I'd give it all, this is my money, I give it, well, it's all our money or to, sort of a credit card debt we're all gonna have to pay, but I'd give it all away. But in this one, it's a low pass for me. Yeah, that's all.
Yeah, I also liked how this one, I have to look at the project and is it going to insulate them from further, impacts, and they're looking to expand their business, add retail area, so yeah, they're experiencing decreased salon services and they're looking to pivot into something else, so for that reason, I like the projects also.
One other bite of the apple, just for education, Carl probably helps the best on this. The reason they get the PPP, the number, they don't ask for the amount. They're getting, it's based on a formula on what their employees, so that means they had a very low payroll.
I'm just saying.
No, but it's a very low payroll.
Right.
If they couldn't get 100,000 in PPP.
It's because they had a bigger payroll.
They had a bigger
I know,
payroll, so this is just a low pay, so that should just, it's not because they asked for a small amount, it's all they were entitled to based by formula. Yeah.
But if I may,
Yeah, second
Bob,
bite
that's
of
a
the
good
apple.
point.
We'll go around.
Just to interject, I've heard the comment from our team here. They're back to where they were. Let's think about this for a moment. 21 inflation rate is 7.7 incrementally over the next 3 years. It's an entirely different spectrum in 21 than it was 2019. Supplies, inflation, fuel, gas, commodities are much greater and more expensive. So just because you see a number here of X, it does not equal Y from 2 years ago, because that same X will not purchase what Y did.
And just to your point there.
Hold on. We're gonna go around. I just wanted to, yeah. Jackie,
I agree.
okay,
Yeah, and I think we already commented, but I wanted to add Carl's perspective. Remember, the effects of COVID are far from over. We're still gonna, these businesses, as Carl said, they may, even if they are equal in sales to 2019, their net profit is nowhere near what it was. So their cash flow is still hurting. And we're still just entering, we had a recession as a result of all the money pumped into the system. Just keep that in mind when we're trying to balance it. Don't just look at revenue.
Oh, I'm not looking
to
to.
that is not
Right.
a lot more to it.
And even if net profit is equal to or a little bit above, that net profit can't possibly produce what it did in 2019, because inflation rate incrementally is 15%.
I agree with that, except they did it with 7 employees in 19.
order in the courtroom, because we're running behind and we're talking past each other at this point. So unless there's something you haven't said, let's sign them in, turn them in.
It's very understandable to look at numbers and say, oh, wow, it's the same numbers 2 years ago.
70.
But we can't.
Okay, absolutely. You're right.
I mean, if you had $100,000 3 years ago, today it's worth actually 87,000.
Chris, are you gonna?
But on paper it says, oh,
Rob with 85. Jackie Matthews 78. Mike Virginsky 70. Gross 60. Jesse Reynolds 80. And Amy Walsh perfect 100. That's it.
we can get you one. You got you one.
77.88.
What was it?
77.88.
Good number.
So based on that average score, I make a motion that we recommend further favorable action in the matter of Body and Soul Day Spa LLC in the amount of $25,000.
Second.
Now, Roll call. Carl Bonamico,
Yes.
Mike Bradinsky, yes. Craig is absent. Rob Fritz.
Yes.
Mike Glidden, absent. Bob Gross.
Yep, so I'm confused now. So we already just think we're voting on the passing them. I failed it.
You're voting no?
I'm-
The average score is above
Oh,
the
so you
70.
move it forward, so now I'll move it
Yeah,
forward.
that's the
I just thought we were just,
system.
I thought we just, this is the first time we're doing the roll call. You were just.
You just
passing.
wanted Carl to stop abstaining.
Yeah, I just wanted Carl to stop abstaining. So Bob Gross is a,
Pass, yes.
that's a yes.
Yes.
Jacqueline McNamee,
Yes.
Chris Regan,
Yes.
Jesse Reynolds,
Yes.
Amy Walsh. That was body and soul. Huh. Next one is Cheryl's. That was Craig's. I signed it to myself. This is another hair and nails salon type of service. They disclosed a PPP in the amount of 5,000 plus. I look at the numbers and I see that compared to 2019, in 2021, the cost of goods sold was down compared to 2019. Other expenses were up. The net the net increased nicely from 2019 to 2040, increased again in 2021. So this is not a case where an adverse impact is palpably apparent. This is a business that doing well. It's doing well. Every small business could use money. Every small business, every large business, has money. But at some point we have to stick to the criteria, and the criteria is there current adversity due to COVID? The numbers just are not there to demonstrate that. When you look at the gross and you look at the net from 2019, the case is just not made. Much as I'd love to give money away, the adversity experienced in 2021 is no worse than it was in 2019. So there you go. Who wants to take a second swing at it? And then we'll go around the table clockwise. Somebody?
And again,
I'm gross.
I have to agree with, Mike Bradinsky, again, criteria wise, it's one person, they were able to, their net profits were up every year, plus receive PPP money, plus there was probably other incomes. We don't see full tax return, we just see profit and loss. So I can't pass this one based on criteria, based on what our charge was. But
Want to go to Carl and Jackie?
I'll get it.
I have to echo some of the points you made, that were already made. To me, it did not make a strong case for an adverse negative impact, and I scored it. I failed this one.
Jackie?
I did a low pass just because again, it's a hair salon. It's a small business in town. All the hair salons had to be closed. They did have to make accommodations for COVID and the masks and all that stuff, but I have a low pass.
Rob?
The same thing, I gave the passing grade, which originally, fairly passing grade, they were impacted by COVID. So I think that works. I know that we couldn't offset, if they could be a lot further, I'm using that argument, like thought process, so I give a passing grade of.
Chris?
I'll echo Jackie and Rob. Lost revenue is lost revenue. It's, and I'll have to put that on a profit and loss. As the potential included there, so it's a low pass for me.
Jesse?
Yeah, I'm kind of on the fence. I struggled kind of with question 2 in terms of, how the project will assist in long-term recovery by hiring another person. I understand that. But at the same time, I don't know if that'll really, that it didn't really hit it out of the park. Clearly, they were impacted by COVID. A lot of these people, the way that they describe it, they may have people who rent chairs from them. So while they only have one FTE, they probably make money off of other people that kind of, for lack of a better word, adjunct. And so, so to me, it was, not super strong, but it wasn't a total fail as well in my.
This is a tough one because it was reading the narrative of the application was way different than what the tax return showed. With an increasing revenue for the 3 years. Yeah, hats off to the business to be able to do that. But again, where would they be if they didn't have COVID? And I also have a hard time with the project.
Thank you.
In that does, you would hope that the ramp up for a new stylist happens and they start making money before the grant runs out. And there's no documentation here about how that worked. So I'm on the edge of passing grade on.
I started.
You started? You started?
You did.
Okay. Wow, okay. Anyone else, second bite of the apple, let's sign them and turn them in?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Important.
Yeah. Amy Wall,
Yeah, sure.
55. Rob Fritz, 75. Rose, 55. Bonamico, 65. Jackie McNamee, 70. Mike Radinsky, 55. Justin Reynolds, 70. Chris Regan, 70. Yeah.
Sorry, yeah.
Okay.
Forgot a zero or something.
I'm sure you can read the names again or just numbers.
Just.
Number 65, 70. 70, yes. 55. 70. 55. 75. 55.
$54.38.
64 and a fraction, so that's below 70. Therefore, based on that average score, I make a motion that the committee then no further favorable action in the matter of Cheryl's hair and nails,
I second the motion.
seconded by Mr. Bondico. Roll call, Carl?
Yes.
Yes. Bradinsky is yes. Fishbein is absent. Rob Fritz?
Yeah.
Glidden is absent. Bob Gross?
Yes.
Jacqueline McNamee?
Yes.
That was a yes, I guess.
Yes.
Chris Regan?
Yes.
Jesse Reynolds?
Yes.
Amy Walsh?
Yes.
The next one is,
We have guests and we're only about halfway in. I wasn't
yeah,
sure if
let's
we
see
wanted to
where we are. It's
prioritize.
8:15 and we would just be starting
We're on Bobby Temple.
really the 7:30 segment, so
Yeah.
let's just see, what business are you here representing? Langen? Is that what you said?
Yes,
Okay, so let's move up Langen.
that one's me.
Let's move up Langen. I gotta just adjust my. And Langen is Jesse Reynolds. But Jesse, hold on until I.
Yep.
Get organized.
Thank you.
It might also be dynamite design. Yes.
Yes.
It might be, yeah, tiger. After doing this.
Looking around.
Okay. Is everybody ready on Langen? Everybody ready? They got it? I'm sorry for the delay. Have everything in order. This is the computer sheet. Okay, Jesse's up on this.
Sure, okay, so, you know, I had mentioned, we talked a lot about different types of businesses that are impacted, specifically with respect to COVID, and two that I got tonight, are, you know, sort of event-based, and outside of the restaurants that could eat on the sidewalk and the salons that could, you know, make you get in a bubble and get a haircut, events got canceled, and, you know, and then everything that goes with it, rentals and so forth. And so this company in particular, also went from 2 FTEs down to 1, you know, and has not recovered in the sense, their financials indicate that they have not recovered in a sense, with gross incomes that are in the negatives in 2020 and 2021. They had to downsize. So clearly they ticked the boxes of impacted by COVID. And so really then what it can, and they've gotten some, they do have an Eidl loan. They took PPP money twice, but the PPP money doesn't even equal, or just about equals, what they lost in the last 2 years. So it's really a wash. The budget justification in terms of, you know, really when they moved their location, they had to think about handicap accessibility, other things like that. So these are added costs that come from having to downsize as a result of the pandemic. The money that they want for payroll to bring on another person is based on, you know, wage reporting from the actual source data. The inventory budget is $10,000. You know, you know, that was the one number that I didn't necessarily struggle with, but at the same time, they did a really good job of itemizing just about everything and providing, you know, sort of exhaustive documentation. So to me, this one was a pass. And it was, you know, I think it qualified to receive the money, the full amount that they requested, which is $25,000.
Amy?
Yeah, I agree that this is one of the types of businesses that experience a big hit because of the lack of events, and the proposed project is helping them regain their footing. So, you know, small local business, I think this is exactly what these funds were designed for, so I give it a pass.
Okay.
Bob Gross.
As I said, one of the other ones, again, I'm running the bubble, but passing. The budget justification was my only problem, sort of. I like the fitting rooms, the inventory budget, because that's going to grow the business. The payroll budget, because it's one person type place. That's where I had the hard time with justifying it's just payroll. I wish it said I would have gotten a higher score. It was something to boost business, something to make the storefront, advertising, something of that nature. That's because I think that's what the money was going for.
This is a sort of a, let's find the scrolling is slow. In the special event industry, the boutique, sort of specialty kind of clothing seems to be a bit of a niche, which would make them more vulnerable to things like the pandemic, in my view. And the numbers seem to bear that out. I mean, the numbers square with, I guess, common sense. It's not that hard to understand the business that Langen is in. So I look at the numbers, and 2020, the gross sales was down, and based on what I have on my notes, the gross revenue after cost of goods sold was way down, a big hit. Started to come back a little bit in 2021, but the aggregate losses are quite impressive. There was, thank goodness for them, substantial EIDL and some PPP money, which kept them alive. But I was impressed by and gave them a strong score on the first row on the impact of the pandemic. To me, this was pretty clear. The case was pretty strong, and also with the project assist, I thought the case made was pretty strong and pretty clear. The budget, I sort of gave mediocre marks to. And the timeline didn't seem to be out of their control, so I gave a decent grade on the last row on the timeline. All in all, I gave it a pretty strong score. Carl?
This industry was incredibly devastated. I have experience in some of these other businesses. I think they did a thorough job, explaining, the numbers are very evident. I mean, just, I guess, sheer devastation on the numbers from one year to the next. This is my highest score of a pass for tonight, and this is perfectly emblematic of what ARPA was created for. I gave it a strong score of 94.
I agree with what Carl said. I definitely gave it a high score. There was nothing that they could do during the pandemic. They were completely, there's no proms, no weddings, basically. So I gave it a high score as well.
They did a great job trying to pivot and reinvent the business. That's all for them. I gave a good score as well.
Chris?
I scored a 90, just echoing everybody else's sentiment.
Jeff, you started.
I think you saw on the video my car.
It may not help.
Fantastic.
What is this?
They're best.
Don't mind chocolate. 82.
Do you like some chocolate?
Carlin Zinco, 94. Fritz Regan, 90. Fritz, 85. Jackie McNamee, 90. Jesse Reynolds, 85. Gross, 80.
Explode.
Amy Walsh, 90.
It's my dinner for this evening.
Average 87.
Okay, based on the average score being above 70, I make a motion that we recommend further favorable action in the amount of $25,000 in the matter of Langen Fashion LLC. seconded by Jesse. So formal roll call. Carl,
Yes.
Mike Burdinsky, yes. Craig Fishbein, absent. Rob Fritz.
Yeah.
Mike Liddon, absent. Bob Gross,
Yes.
Jackie McNamee,
Yes.
Chris Regan,
Yes.
Jesse Reynolds.
Yes.
Amy Welch.
Yes.
Okay. You're welcome to stay. I mean, you know, whatever you want, but it's pretty boring.
Good luck.
Okay. Next is Body Temple Fitness. That was going to be signed to Mike Liddon, but he's not here, so I said that I would take it over. This is a gym, personal trainer, sort of a business. We know from general reading, community knowledge, those kind of businesses got at a tough time during the pandemic. The question is who was able to come back and who wasn't able to come back. When I look at the numbers, I see big hits from the pre-pandemic year, the base year, in the gross, big hits in the net. In 2021, he was coming back a little bit, but wasn't all the way back. The amount of aid was also impressive. That goes a long way to stemming the bleeding, and I added up the PPPs and the EIDLs and the you know, all the other things. That was substantial too. And one could argue that that aid approximates the losses, and now maybe he should be off and running on his own feet. But as I look at the numbers, and I certainly understand the amount of aid, I still believe it's probably on the edge of not making it, and maybe this would make a difference. So that's how I look at it.
Okay. Because,
First swing, yep.
all right, because
Body Temple Fitness.
I, with what you said, like, one thing I wanted to just clarify, and Carl being banker. Yes, they got a lot of money, but some of that money isn't in grant money. The EDILs they have to pay back. So that's like me taking out a loan, a mortgage. I still have to pay back that money. So their money that they received in grants really didn't make up for what they lost in revenue. So this is the type of business that really got hit. They were closed. People don't want to go back to them, breathing heavy. It was a big to begin with, but how do you separate them? Heavy expensive equipment, so forth. So I give this a high pass score to go through. And with EDILs for the future, though, those are just loans.
Right.
They just pay them.
They have to pay back.
They have to pay back.
Too soon.
Well, they're very long. They may be very favorable.
We'll circle around. We'll circle around. I opened it, so I'll take a pass, but I do have another bite of the apple at that comment, and we'll go to Carl, Jackie, and around.
Sure. I think this business it's going through structural change, as someone put it tonight. The environment's completely changed in terms of personal contact. I think this industry is still going to feel the impact going forward in the future. They were devastated, very much like the previous case that we evaluated. You know, just from top to bottom, that they provided, in my opinion, a really good case why they should receive a pass. I gave it a pass and a score of 80.
Jackie?
I agree with everything Carl said, and I gave it a pass of an 85.
Ditto 85.
I actually scored it a little higher, just given he's been a mainstay in the last 13 years. You always see him at the events, at the Celebrate Wallingford, etc. This guy, given that things are in his favor, they make it a business work to his advantage. So it's 90 for me.
Jesse?
I was out of the room for part of the discussion, but what I've heard, I agree. I gave it a passing score.
No.
I think the actions that he wants to take to, improve his business, grow his business, replace equipment, all that stuff is all valid and long-term, so I'm on board. Amy?
I gave him a pass, the project, looks like he wants to hire employees, so I just hope that the increased revenue that comes from hiring employees, is actually cover the additional cost of hiring employees, but I gave him a pass.
I do want to say one more thing on this particular one, because I want to go back to an older one. This one was very thorough on the money he received, and I'd like to see that. There was one that we saw earlier tonight that did not give us all their grant money that they received. They didn't put it down on the paperwork. Would like to see that, but this one, for that, gives me 4 points too, when they're it wasn't asked for it and they gave us everything, so. Still.
So my second bite of the apple, I gave him a passing grade too, but my second bite of the apple pertains not only to this application, but other applications as well. On this EIDL, the significance of that, they have to pay it back. My understanding is over 30 years at like 1% interest. It's more like aid than it is a loan. Tell me the loan term.
It's not 1%. I think the not-for-profits are 2.5 or 3%, and the for-profits are a point higher. So they're around 3 to 4%.
Does anyone have an opinion on what their interest rate
Carl
is?
knows, or I can look, we can look it up. It's not 1%.
Well,
It's low, it's very low.
So I just think it's too casual to say, well, it's a loan, they gotta pay it back.
Yeah, it's
3.75%.
That's better. 30 years is still,
yeah, it's a point lower.
with respect to employees, again, every business could use money, but it's the business model suggests it's in reverse. What they need is more customers, not employees. So to say they're going to use money on employees is one reason why I marked them down. The customers have to come first, and I'm not sure that employees are a profit center. That's a very hard sell. I still gave him a passing grade, not as high as you guys did, but that's that. You may hear that speech again, but hey, First Amendment.
You need 2 more.
Gotta have a tear out.
That's one.
Is there another one out there?
Is there another
Oh, geez.
form?
Okay. No, we got it.
You got it?
Yeah.
Let's stay put, right?
I do agree with you on that.
No, you don't. You
Yeah,
voted.
I disagree with you on that.
Well, the thing about the employees though, is in a business like that, when you're doing personal training, you need more trainers to bring in more people.
I don't know.
It's an appointment.
You bring these people, you're gonna get
It's a big problem.
Well, yeah, but I mean, if I walk into a gym and I want a trainer and they don't have one, I'm gonna go find another gym.
All right, read them off.
Amy
Same thing
Walsh,
with a
90.
therapist. I'm not gonna hang out in the waiting room and wait for them to hire me.
Need more therapists. Yeah, we need more
Carl
therapists.
Bonamico, 80. Jackie Knappman, 85. Gross, 88. 88. Jesse Reynolds, 80. I know it's high. Chris Regan, 90. Rob Fritz, 85. So who the nicest? This is yours. Bradinsky, 78.
Mike, you need to put your name on that.
Don't follow the rules, Mike.
Too busy keeping you guys in line.
84.5.
Full-time job. Based on the average score, I make a motion that we recommend further favorable action in the amount of $25,000 in the matter of Body Temple Fitness LLC. Second by somebody, by Carl. So roll call. Carl,
Yes.
Bradinsky, yes. Fishbein absent. Rob Fritz.
Yes.
Glidden absent. Bob Gross.
Yeah.
Jacqueline McNamee.
Yes.
Chris Regan. Jesse Reynolds.
Yeah.
Amy Walsh.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on.
I got it. His alarm is going. Who's it, Joe?
Okay. So Dewey Amici has come off the agenda. We're down to Academy of Dance and Music. Bob Gross, you're up.
That would be me.
Yeah, give Amy a chance to get. That's important.
Okay.
Yeah, that's important to get stay organized.
Okay, Academy of Dance and Music. This is one of those businesses that They have students, couldn't get close contact. I passed them, what I don't like about the application, these are for leasehold improvements. This is for a roof and a furnace. This really doesn't help the business at all. I wish we saw grant to get more students in, some tuition lowering, some costumes, something to enhance the business. I don't like when I see leasehold improvements on these for businesses that are trying to bring more business. So for that was a negative on me. It's not the best use because leasehold improvements, they can write those off. So we're going to give them 25,000 if they have, and then that 25,000 when they put it into the roof becomes a depreciable asset for them. They're able to write off. Like I said, these are items that, again, the reason I'm belaboring the point is because we're going to see other applications wanting the same thing. These are things that landlords should be planning for. This isn't growing their business by putting a roof on, fixing the HVAC system, that type of thing. Not for these types of business that are touchy-feely type businesses with people inside. They're good standing, the revenue was down. This, again, kind of business, so I passed them. They did receive some PPP money, but it wasn't enough to offset their income that they lost. And again, I'm just going to add that I just thought there was better use of the COVID money would sort of higher asset.
Next rotation, so I will go also next. I like to go to the numbers first. That sets up whether the narrative makes sense to me. And I go to the numbers and I see a business who has been impacted by the pandemic. There's a clear case that the gross is down, the net is down. Is it adversity? I mean, they're still making a tidy profit in 2021. So that's a question. And then I think Bob Gross's comment about the use of the money, I mean, I think that's also a fair point. Certainly we are our criteria are flexible enough that we can allow for capital improvements and things like roof repairs. The thing is, do they get a high score because that's what they choose to do? I mean, I guess one could argue that a new roof helps bring in business and helps bring in more customers, but frankly, that's a bit of a stretch. It's how they want to use the money. Does it make them stronger in the long run? Yeah, I suppose. But what they really need is more customers. And I gave them, not sure what I'm going to give them, but I'm right on the cusp of pass fail. But I'm that high because I see the comparison between how they did in 2019 and how they did in 2021. And the drop is rather dramatic. I'm done, Carl.
That's what impacted me. I did not give it a high score, but it was a pass. Some vulnerability in terms of the justification for some of the long-term projects and improvements, but to me, low pass 70.
Jackie?
I also gave it a low pass 70 for the same reasons. I'm not really sure how it will improve. Nothing to do with dancers. The HVAC would help. So that's why I gave it a 70.
Rob?
Yes, I gave it a score similar to the other scores that I could give you. They were impacted by COVID. We're going to use it for appropriate. I'm going to interpret it a little bit different though. So you have X amount of dollars in the budget. You got to spend it someplace. And if, you know, when you talk about the roof and the HVAC system, you know, I had grandkids in dance. It was 50 degrees and the roof was leaking. I'm not going to send my kids to the dance. So I think you have to have a building. You have to have appropriate facility infrastructure or your business is going to suffer or maybe. So I think that there is a justification for spending it on those items. And the bottom line is you have X amount of cash. There might be other priorities that they had to hold off. That has to get done. So, but she had salary and payroll and some other things that she would have probably put towards it if they had money, so it impacted it. That's how I looked at it. So I gave it a pass and score of 85.
So I'm not a pass on this one just because of the allocation of money. Being improvements to the building and furnace repair. They've been at the location for 66 years. You don't wait until the roof is leaking and furnace no longer works in order to, to make those repairs. You try to do those over a period of time, especially when revenue and net income is up over a period of time. If those dollars were spent towards marketing, towards client acquisition, towards any other type of outreach, I would have, that the score of the 40 for that would have been higher than a 20, which was the ultimate factor for me.
Jesse.
I gave this a pass. I do see I do see the points being made about the building repair and things like that, but I also I also understand that when your business drops significantly over a couple year period and the type of business that you run is deeply affected because it's indoors by COVID. And so I gave it a pass, but I did have some of the reservations. I mean, one thing that I did kind of which made me kind of accept it quicker was that the estimate of the work was over the amount requested and that they were going to actually be putting in money themselves. So that was sort of where it didn't hit that. You see these applications like I need 25 grand and it's going to cost exactly 25 grand. So to me, that made a difference. Amy?
Yeah, I always look at projects and yes, is the project going to help the business going forward? It's important to have a roof and AC for the school. But yeah, could they have allocated it better over time? But still, I think that's I passed.
I'm gonna go back to more by the apple. I have to agree, especially with Chris. I mean, I would have lumped them if they had worked in a different type of business, but because they were school and kids coming in and they dropped so precipitously, that's why. But for me, those kind of leasehold improvements are just not bringing more business into the business. That's not what this was for.
All score sheets are in.
Amy Wall, 85. Mike Rodinsky, 68. Gross, 75. Jesse Reynolds, 75. Rob Fritz, 85. Jackie Ackerman, 70. Carl Miko, 70. And Chris Regan, 65.
Perfect.
74.13.
74.
Yeah.
And a fraction. So based on the average score, I make a motion that we recommend further favorable action in the amount of $25,000 in the matter of Academy of Dance and Music LLC. Somebody?
Second.
Bob Grove seconds, Carl Bonamico.
Yes.
Mike Burdinsky, yes. Craig Fishbein, absent.
Yes.
Rob Fritz
I
just.
just love you, I'm sorry.
Very excited.
Push this all in there.
Mike Liddon, absent. Bob Groves, Jacqueline McNamee,
Yes.
Chris Regan,
Yes.
Jesse Reynolds,
Yeah.
Amy Walsh.
Yes.
Next one is
First,
Julie.
you go for
Just got it.
Yeah. Can you hold on? one
Yes,
second?
I'm gonna
Let me,
Amy's still doing it. Amy's still doing
Okay.
it.
No, you can't.
Some don't have.
Okay.
all right,
It's got 15 pieces of metal in it. Look at the dent. It's gonna be like all weekend. It's gonna look like this. Ready?
Finally read it.
Bob, are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Go ahead.
All right.
That's
So this is a place that's been there since, according to her record, it's been there since 2004. And to Chris Regan's point, that the roof is a leasehold improvement. It's not COVID related, didn't happen because of COVID. Her place was for rent before COVID. I'm in downtown a lot. I know the building's been for sale. So I own property, so I know it's been for sale. So I couldn't give it a passing score because of what she was looking to do with the money.
This application is just not a good fit with the criteria. There are a ton of reasons. I'm not gonna spend a lot of time on it, but it's got a very low score. This is not what the program is supposed to be for. Carl?
That's a poorly completed application, in my view. Lacked a lot of some of the things I was looking for in terms of scoring. This is not passed for me. No score.
Jackie?
It was also not a pass for me because, like Bob said, it's been open pre-COVID and I didn't feel as though the application did it justice for the COVID. ARPA funds.
Rob?
Totally agree with everything that's said.
Chris?
Ditto.
Jesse? Ditto? Is that a ditto?
That's a ditto.
Record reflect a ditto, a hand gesture?
Agree.
Likewise, ditto. Margaret.
That's one.
That's one.
You have a logical break point in mind?
What?
Logical break point? What time do you want to keep going? Okay, with that.
It's 8:48 now. Let's see. Well, let's talk about that. I envision on the agenda, I envision is incomplete. That shouldn't take long to decide. Langen Fashions, we did. Abrasive came off the agenda. We could do. How about 9:15 as a target end time? Is that, or do you want to go later to accomplish more? Just what's your time to conclude the meeting?
Well, 30 minutes.
Finish.
I think I can finish it in half hour.
So,
I mean, that's somewhere in the time frame. I don't think we should go midnight.
yeah,
We're almost done.
so we'll keep going and we'll see how we go.
So, okay.
Okay, let's get ready.
Fair, ready?
Gross 45. Jesse Reynolds 65. Nico 40. Regan 60. Britt 35. Jack and Eckman 50. Bradinsky 32. Last one is Amy Walsh 45.
So based on that average score, I make a motion.
46.5 average,
What was that?
46.5.
46.5. I started talking before you gave the average score and I didn't even know
Basically,
what the average score was at that point.
I thought you were reacting to the average score.
Yeah. So I make a motion that the application of Julie MARDJEKAJ DBA Hall Avenue,
31 Hall Ave.
31 Hall Avenue. That the committee recommend no further favorable action.
Second that motion.
Carl. Carl's a yes? Carl?
Yes.
Mike Bradinsky's yes. Rob Fritz?
Yes.
Bob Gross?
Yeah.
Jacqueline McNamee?
Yes.
Chris Regan?
Yes.
Jesse Reynolds?
Yes.
Amy Walsh? Did I hit
Yes.
everybody? Okay.
My
The next is Divinely Rooted. Jackie, you're up on Divinely Rooted.
I am, so Divinely Rooted is a yoga and Pilates business in Wallingford. It's been in Wallingford for 4 years. They did show a loss 2019. They made 13,000, 2020, 8,000, 2021, 29,000. They are requesting $33,000. Funds have not been secured. It comes from her research. I am passing it because, you know, they did have a significant loss during COVID. They had to close down. They were in a small space. So they weren't able to have, you know, their full-size classes, so they're limited. And what they are looking to do is provide create a yoga and fitness group for the youth and assist adolescents with mental health and physical development. So I know there's a need. I know that there will be kids, you know, if you build it, they will come. She's requesting advertising, customer retention, full-time marketing, pay teachers a more sustainable wage. And cleaning supplies and air purifier. So for me, this was a pass.
Rob,
Yeah, it's a whole term, so I guess it's.
Chris,
I have nothing more to add.
Jesse,
Didn't explore it as strongly. Part of it was like, this is one of those applications that actually, or wait, did they send us, is there another one that's corrected? Okay, there's, part of it's cut off. In a budget justification, mine is cut off, below high quality air purifier, there's $500 cut off. And that's not a hill to die on for me, I'm just saying. I didn't score it so low that it wouldn't pass, but I'm just not really, I wasn't really that strongly in favor of this. Hearing everybody's arguments, so I agree with you all.
I had, I'm trying to get this one in with the itemization for the estimates of the budget. I think we're very loose. And the amount of classes was double the income of the business, so proportionality was an issue. But so I gave it a marginal score.
I marginally failed it on some of the hiring the teachers for the classes. That's, if you hire the teachers, the kids are gonna come, they're gonna pay tuition. I wish there were better things. Again, proportionally, I mentioned that in the beginning, that this is one proportionately that the amount of money they're asking for is so much greater than their income is right now. I think there's only so far that they can grow this. I was close, but I couldn't pass this one.
I know you've all put your scores in, so there you go. I don't think whatever financial problems they're having have much to do, frankly, with the pandemic. Had a loss in 2019, slightly bigger loss in 2020, but these are very small numbers and did better in 2021. The gross has been always close to the edge. I think this is a business in need of customers. I don't think the pandemic really has much to do with the situation she's in. I think it's the nature of the business, the location. I mean, other business factors and dependent on the pandemic. I just couldn't get there. We have a proportionality problem, I think, but I'm looking for the amount of the request. Is it 25,000?
She was requesting 33, but is it the max 25 for businesses or no?
Yes.
Yeah, that's the, is that what
So
you put
she's
in?
requesting 33, but if the max is 25.
Yeah, I see 33 and well, that can't be right. I must be missing it. So, I mean, we would just need to, you know, reduce it if we were going to pass it to 25,000 because that's the max. But, you know, I mean, that's a windfall. I mean, that's just 25,000, just an out and out windfall given the numbers. So that's.
Well, then to that point, to make it more palatable for some people before we vote on it,
Yeah.
can we make a motion that's half the money? I mean, and then maybe it's more palatable to you or to some others? I mean, I didn't pass it, but I'm just saying, because this is going to come up again.
Yeah. So, I mean, here's what we could do. I or somebody could say, would this applicant get a stronger score if the amount was reduced to blank and let's say $15,000. I'm just pulling a number out of the air. I don't know, but it's $15,000. Would that increase the score or would it make no difference? 25 thousand, 15,000.
It would make no difference because you would be reflected in your scoring of that particular business.
Well, I don't know if we all did that, and I'm trying to address Bob's questions.
Well, because
That's
No,
all.
but I think we've been doing that. We've been doing that since the beginning. If
Well, let me
you
just
feel-
go around the table quickly because you raised a good point, and I raised proportionality, and I just want to get that aired out, and we'll see where we go. So, if it was reduced, if the request was reduced in some amount, would it make a difference in your score? We'll go around quickly. Carl,
It would not.
it would not. Jack?
It would-
No.
To me,
There you go.
to me, it put on the third line, the three was proposed budget for the project is appropriate.
Yeah, but we're all scoring.
But
No, I'm just saying.
it's not the
Yeah.
proposed budget. It's
I
not the
understand.
proposed budget.
I understand. Everybody's?
I believe.
You're also.
Yeah.
Wall 68. Nico 75. Fritz 85. Chris Regan 80. Mike Tradinsky 35. Jesse Reynolds 65. Bob Gross 60. I need one more here. So who didn't I read? Whose name didn't I read?
Jackie.
Jackie's I didn't read. Is yours this one, Jackie, 75?
Yes, sorry.
I'll write it. Jackie Matthews, 75.
67.88.
Okay, based on the average score, not reaching 70, I make a motion that we recommend no further favorable action in the matter of divinely rooted yoga therapy and Pilates. Seconded by Jesse Reynolds.
Sure.
Carl Bonamico,
Yes.
Mike Berdinsky, yes. Rob Fritz.
Yes.
Bob Gross.
Yes.
Jacqueline McNamee.
Yes.
Chris Regan, Jesse Reynolds. Amy Walsh.
Yes.
All right. Next one is Burton Turning. I had Jackie Burton Tuning. It's tuning. And Burton.
Burton Tuning is an automotive specialist business. They've been in town for 4 years. They have one employee. His business was not essential. Customers were less. Hours worked were significantly reduced. His income was low, that he had to supplement his income by going on unemployment. He purchased a larger piece of equipment that was able to work in-house rather than need to travel to work. So in 2019, he made 18,000, 2020, 8,000, and 2021, 111,000. He's requesting 30,000 to purchase additional large equipment to expand the business. Funds would come from income in an additional grant. So he wants to purchase a secondary testing machine. I mean, he had substantial loss in 2020. I did give it a low pass only because in 2019 it was 18,000. So I'm assuming 2020 it would have been much higher. And then led into 2021 to 111. And I'm not a car person, so I don't really know. This would, I mean, obviously, I think it would increase his business because it's more machines. And it's a specialty machine to broaden his market. And he's willing to put in some of the money.
Yeah.
Yeah, I gave it, so. That's good.
Chris,
I'm struggling with the 2021
Yeah.
noticeable uptick, hockey stick in gross income. With that and a really not clear explanation of what this equipment is for, except that it is big. And we need another one. You know, just not enough detail on either of those parts, and I'm not convinced that it was a COVID related downside either, so it's not a pass for me.
Jesse,
Yeah, I'm I'm not, I'm in the same boat as Chris. I agree with his sentiments. I don't have anything else to add.
I am completely confused on this one because the DRS letter says he's in East Haven. His financials say he's in East Haven. The tax return says he's in East Haven. The application, I believe, said Wallingford, but that was the only place where it said he was in Wallingford.
I can clear that up if you want.
Sure.
Okay, so I also had that confusion, so I went looking. It looks like in 19 and 18, he was in East Haven. He moved in 2020 to Wallingford.
But his tax return for
But he's sending him,
2019.
Yeah.
East Haven.
you're right, that's what I'm saying, 19, he was in East Haven, 18, he was in East Haven, 18, 19, he was in East Haven, 20, he moved to Wallingford, and 21, he was fully in Wallingford. The reason I got that's from Secretary of State's office, because that confused me also.
April 13th letter from his CPA says East Haven, Henry Street,
That's where he lives.
2022.
That's where he lives. So he might be receiving, because of the way he has it set up at the state of Connecticut, he has now his business location in Wallingford. Before he had his business location at his home, he must have been working out of his garage or something like that with equipment. That's why he says he wants equipment to move. He did move and he changed the address to Wallingford in 2020, but kept the East Haven as a mailing address.
That's very
That's common.
Very
That's
normal.
common. That's common. I have that done too. I don't have the business address. I must have sent to my people.
So Amy, I usually don't press the point. What's your bottom line? What significance do you give to that?
Is he Wallingford based? I mean, I guess he is now. That was my big question. So, yeah, I mean,
According to the criteria, we were supposed to be Wallingford based
in
in
2019.
2019.
No.
But I didn't want to bring that.
Pull up the paperwork if you have it.
which they-
Printed it.
Let me see.
And
I'm looking for it now.
tax return information, there was something from 2019, there's a P&L from 2021, but I didn't see anything from 2020.
Here's what I'm seeing on the application form. Business existed. The business existed in January 2019 and is presently operational.
Yeah.
Here.
That's all.
So you want to see the Secretary of State?
No, that's not what I asked.
Okay.
What I asked was whether or not it's a requirement that the business be in Wallingford in
Yes.
2019.
Yes.
And I'm saying, no, it's not a requirement because I'm looking right now at eligibility requirements. And I don't see that. It's not my-
Was it just for not-for-profits then you had to be in Wallingford? Because.
Yeah, that could be.
I thought you both have to not.
No, I'm just looking at it. I'm just reading it. I'm not-
2020. You know, if you've been in business for 40 years and you moved to Wallingford in 2020, you would be eligible.
That's what it looks
to
like.
apply.
Yeah.
No, I think I'm gonna disagree. I think to remember if the business one on the application or somewhere says you had to be in business in January of 2019. Or at some point, no, the not-for-profit said January 19, the businesses said 2019,
Can I just-
Eligibility requirements.
2019.
One, the business is located in the town of Wallingford, period. Two, the business existed in January 2019 and is presently operational.
Right.
So mutually exclusive.
I think it does qualify.
So he moved, no doubt about it. He started out in East Haven and during the period of time he moved. But I can't, it's not an automatic disqualifier. I'm just trying to. Okay, where are we in the rotation?
Yes,
Amy?
So thank you for walking through that. His justification is a little shaky. It's hard to know what he needs the tool for, but yeah, so that's all I'm saying.
I'll just speak along. I just failed them, not by much, but I failed because what everybody said.
So,
Yeah.
with the gross going up the way it did and then the net really turning around from 2019 to 2021, this is maybe a startup business. It's now doing okay. It may have had a temporary setback in 2020, but this is not a revenue replacement program. Any business would try to get new equipment to, expand and upgrade. And it's not the question of, does he have use for the money? It's, has he really been that adversely impacted by the pandemic? You see the gross going up the way it did. It's a very hard case to make. As I said in the first 5 minutes of this meeting, the numbers for me tell the story. So that's my problem with it. My screen.
To me, when it comes to the automotive industry,
Oh,
What
yeah,
we-
I'm sorry.
yeah,
I'm sorry.
remote strategy, people are home, they're not driving, which means much decreased need for maintenance. It was across the board. So those numbers do not shock me in terms of drop in revenue and profit. You had at some point, 50 to 60% of the population, remote strategy, not driving, and the automotive industry, repair industry was significantly impacted. I thought it was I did have some confusion in terms of location, but I found that to be common. I gave it a low pass.
Jackie.
I already went.
You started well.
Yeah, well, I gave it a low pass.
Okay. Chris. Pat, okay. Jesse. It's coming around. It's coming around.
Yeah, no, I think, yeah, no. I already went.
Very well.
Oh, okay. So we're good. Second bite of the apple.
But
Amy.
I'm good.
Can we just get clarification?
Yeah.
On what, on the application for the 19, because,
I can try to email this to you, or you can
but
look at my screen.
so I have,
If it's mutually exclusive, then there's no hairs to split. If it says you have
because they
to
do,
check,
because
you have
don't
to
they,
do
those
this
are the
check.
not-for-profits, don't they say they had to be?
Yeah, not
Serve the town of Wallingford.
For the 2019, yeah, because.
Boys and girls, we're making it tough on our recording secretary and everything else. So,
Grandfathers wanted.
Please.
Wow, do you want this?
I have it. Thank you.
and at the amount of the request, whatever to do.
You tell me it.
Here's that.
Reynolds 55. Gross 60. From Nico 70. Fritz 70. Regan 50. McNamee 70. Wall 50. I assume this is for his.
No, it's assignment.
57.
$60.25.
60.25?
Yeah, 60 passes, right?
No,
No.
70.
70.
You're getting pumped, job.
Yeah.
We haven't,
I just didn't calculate.
we haven't come to a situation of 69 and 3/4. We haven't figured that out.
We'd
Anyway,
have to discuss that
we haven't discussed that, but that's good for now.
if you want to arrange a committee.
So I make a motion based on the average score that we recommend no further favorable action be taken in the matter of Burton Tuning Solutions.
Second,
Bonamico,
yes.
Burdinsky, yes. Fritz,
Yes.
Gross,
Yeah.
McNamee,
Yes.
Regan,
Yes.
Reynolds, Walsh.
Yes.
Next is
Overall Automotive, it's located 37 Warehouse Point Road in Wallingford. They have been in business for 24 years. They are a high performance restoration vintage car construction center for Mustangs, Shelbys, R models, and Cobras. They, because of COVID, racing is racing stopped, and racing is 60% of their business. They're trying to regain a percentage of the racing business back. Some of it cannot be reclaimed, so they're focusing more strongly on classic car restoration. 2019, they show a significant loss, and they have not come back. When they come back, though, how would you, not when you're the banker guy,
Well, it's a pretty significant drop
Yeah.
in 2019
they have.
in percentage basis.
They did receive PPP loan of $850,000, $815,000 in ERTC credits of 565. The money was used to help maintain their employees and to get additional staff. What they want to do is to purchase some body shop equipment to meet the demands of additional business. The business model was approximately 50% classic car care restoration, 50% historic car racing. The balance has changed drastically. And what they wish to do is to update the paint spray booth. I don't know why I can't talk anymore, sorry. That will cost approximately $75,000 installed in frame machine, which will be an additional 15,000 to 20,000. The pieces of equipment are essential to emphasize their new business model. They're in the process of shopping for these pieces of equipment at the moment, and because of some minor concrete site work needed, they will hope to have them purchased in place sometime after January 1st, 2023. So they're ready anytime. So, I mean, for me, I would say that they definitely struggled through COVID. They're switching their business model to meet the needs rather than go with car racing. They're, going a different way, and they're not asking for all of the money because they're willing to put in the $75,000 is what it's going to cost, plus an additional 35. So for me, I did pass them.
Okay. Rob? Oh, you're taking, I'm sorry.
I'm Rob also.
Yeah, go ahead.
So
First swing.
even, I like this application. I thought this was like the honesty in this one. They put the employee retention credits in there. Still didn't get them because, again, a lot of people are not even putting their full PPP money on these applications. These guys went up and beyond board. We can see how their income has been impacted by COVID. This business gets the highest score of mine for tonight. I thought this was a great application, and he explained what he wants to do with the thing, and pass it highly.
Pass by me and I'm gonna go to Carl and go around. And I'll take a second bite at it.
I know this business all too well. It's a client of mine, so I've recused myself as stated before.
Oh, yeah. Okay. You did it. You
I
okay?
did it. I'm sorry. I started.
Obviously, I had some familiarity with this business too. I know that they have a lot of employees and they kept everyone employed during the downturn, so they use that money. Was they didn't, all that money, they had like 40 employees, they've been here for a long time, so. Yeah, no, I gave it the score as well, passing grade.
Pass for me.
Jesse.
Mine passed, their losses over the years and the fact that they only lost one FTE over the, 3-year period reflects that they pivoted well, and I think they'll use the money to continue to grow their business. It fits into the long-term category for me. When I see numbers of 5 million and 4.5 million, though, I somewhat balk, but that also speaks to sort of like the problematic issues of looking at sort of like gross amounts and not looking at what their actual business cost of doing business is and how they're reflected. So it was a pass for me. I agree with Bob. I respect the fact that they mentioned the credits they received and everything else. So
Yeah, I passed them. It's a big business. So, like I said, the numbers are bigger than what we've seen for a lot of applicants, but yeah, they were impacted. They demonstrated that in the project. Going forward will help them emerge from the pandemic. So.
Bob.
I went first.
You
I
went first.
agree.
So I took a pass. So I'm just gonna make something. They got 1.4 million in aid between the PPP and the ERT. That's an impressive amount of money. business trends come and go, and after a while, the link between the pandemic and the business model and the customers it gets harder and harder and harder to pin it on them, especially when you're up in these numbers. And is $25,000 really going to do anything? I don't know. It's a close score, but anyway.
I want to invite this to, I have to say that we have to look at these, there's 25 employees here, so when you exponentially put that out, their number's going to be so much larger than the small businesses we see. So I don't think we should be surprised to see $1 million or 800,000, because PPP is done based on payroll, as we saw 3,000 for PPP. That means they don't have a payroll. This guy has.
I understand.
So that's why it's
I understand what you're saying, and I respectfully disagree. PPP goes, add that into the tax returns. You just add that right in, because
still doesn't bring back.
hold on. You just add that right in. After a while, a business is set right. After, enough aid comes in, whether it's PPP, you say, ignore PPP. I choose not to.
I didn't.
Let me just finish. I'm not going to ignore PPP. It's aid they got to get them on their feet. And, that now the link between the pandemic in view of all this aid becomes harder and harder and harder to see. That's all I'm saying.
I'm just
I know you don't.
taking the counter position to try and.
I'm not
To persuade you the right
I'm
way.
not trying to. So here's the deal. We can wrap up Cody
Yeah.
Well, should we
and
put Calvin's up?
Yes. Good.
Okay, ready?
Yeah, I guess the credential. 55. Jesse Reynolds, 80. Gross, 90. Regan, 70. Jackie McNamee, 85. Amy Walsh, 95. So who's got a black magic marker right now? Chris Regan?
Is that your point?
That might.
Yeah, it's probably,
That's yours? I can write the name in here.
Do we have that one? No.
85.
That's 7.
You got 7?
80.
what was the average?
80.
80. Okay. Based on the average score, I move that we recommend further favorable action in the amount of $25,000 in the matter of automotive.
Second.
Thank you. Carl Bonamico.
Recused.
Thank you. Recused. Mike Burdinsky is yes. Fishbein absent. Rob Fritz.
Yes.
Bob Gross.
Yes.
Jacqueline McNamee.
Yes.
Chris Regan.
Yes.
Jesse Reynolds.
Yes.
Amy Walsh.
Yes.
Okay. Amy's gonna package that up. It's 9:19.
You want to, so get through that.
So we can blast through Cody's and then put everything else on another meeting, unless you want to persevere and go through the rest. What's your
I'd say Cody's and we're done.
Cody's and then we're done?
I agree.
Okay, so we'll get through Cody's now. That's Chris.
Ready?
Yeah, you're up to present. Did you know that? I don't know.
As far as Cody's is concerned, there's a proposed project to address the negative economic impact. For me, it's a strong passing score. Just the combined package and does have a number of elements that are successful in growth. Truly. The first category contributed to demonstrated financial adversity. For the financial documents provided, there was a clear demonstrated impact of the business, seeing slightly more than a 50% decline in revenue during the 2020 period versus 2019. corresponding to their business being closed for approximately 7 months. I scored this at 25 out of 30. The business was able to recover to 2019 levels as shown, but just barely, combined with the labor shortages as an unintended consequence of the stay-at-home financial incentives, coupled with some supply chain issues like Carl's mentioned before. I would not describe this business as fully recovered. As to the second category, the application demonstrates that this, in my opinion, the proposed project assists in the business and long-term recovery is not a temporary fix. The elements of a good recovery plan, in my opinion, for businesses like this is to recruit customers, marketing, service the customers, furniture and fixtures, and you can only do these by having barbers available. So I gave this a 30. The next category, worth 15 in total, what was the degree the project is appropriate and supported. I took some points off on this for being light on the details, but strong on a plan for more longer term survival. Scored this 8 total. And lastly, the degree for the proposed timeline for completion is reasonable. I gave that a 15 as well. The only thing that I would like to address is this barbershop's model is the rental of chairs. It is to bring people on board when you start talking about financial incentives. It is to bring those individuals, the stylists, etc., to buy into a seat. The revenue is for those individuals, which are not quite quantified in these, but you need to have a strong, stable business with the capabilities to do all these things. In recent days, or actually over the last year, the business has moved from East Center Street over to the current address at South Turnpike. He's got room to grow. It's a viable business, and there is, as far as my opinion is concerned.
Jesse?
Yeah, no, I don't know, never mind. Well, no, I was just gonna comment that about moving the business and things like that, because he was able to do that during the economic downturn, and it's a nice place. But that being said, the application was forthcoming and it came, they were clearly impacted. My main trepidation was just, I don't know if it's clearly demonstrated that this will, do long-term recovery. I'm hoping it will, but so it didn't score as high for there. I didn't take the full 15 on the documentation because some of that was missing, but I think it's doable. So I gave it 15. So I passed it. It wasn't a super high pass for me.
Amy?
Yes, it was the class of business that got really hit. Are they back? They're back to their previous levels, but are they where they would have been if we haven't had COVID? Probably not. The plan is laid out in the one on the detail, but yeah, I pass it.
I guess I maybe look too deep in some of these. He mentions he was close to March to October, and if you look at here, that's probably when he did his move. So no, didn't move his 20.
It was last year.
Yeah, he moved last year.
Last year.
His brother runs Red Scroll. I know him. Yeah, Cody moves across the street.
Okay, so that explains. Okay, but this is one of those ones then for proportionality. I was hoping he'd be from 20 because then his income was so low. But then this is one proportionality where you have incomes that are $12,000, $5,000, $12,000, and he's asking for 25. This is one of those ones that comes up in my book for proportionality. I mean, this is one of the businesses that was definitely hit, no question about it, but asking for double his gross. Where we talked about the last one, 25, how's it going to help him? It's such a small amount. This one's fortunately rated that way. So I would like to pass it, but I would like to alter the number.
So you're
I'm on the fence.
We'll go around the table
Yep.
about a lower number and see what's going on. A lower number let me address that first. The lower number may help my score because just don't laugh at this next comment. I'm looking at you, Rose. My experience with barber shops is that,
Yeah,
I'm not laughing at you.
I'm with you. I'm with you.
I'm literally with you.
We should have seen that coming.
is that this new barber incentive is extremely speculative, and because of that, it's just really speculative. And there was a time when I went to barbershops, and marketing and web design, it doesn't sell me. That's not how barbershops do it with my experience, marketing, web design. So that's a real problem for me. That's $10,000. And therefore we have a proportionality problem. If he wants 25, look at his numbers. That's a windfall. That is just a windfall. He took a loss in 2019, obviously a bigger loss in 2020, but this is not a revenue replacement program. And it just doesn't add up. This is a business that's always going to be at a certain level. We can put 25,000 into it. And it's going to end up being, pretty much the way it always has been, probably. So there you go. Who's
You want to put forward a
left?
number?
Yeah.
I respectfully disagree. I know this barber shop in Milford, TikTok, Instagram, web design has transformed the business digitally to the next level. In a barbershop industry, you need to have reels, you need to have progression and stylistic little change over time. And the personal care industry was affected in pandemic until they were able to realize and be nimble and adapt. So this was a pass, not a super strong pass, but clearly a pass for me.
Anyone left?
Just have a comment. There's one common variable among all of us. We're not 25 years old or 18 years old. So that's why my son takes pictures of the money on his phone and I'm going down to the bank branch. So to Carl's point, if his clientele is the 20-year-old, that's the money. Our approach is more traditional. That's not how
It's almost non-negotiable.
So we can't relate to that necessarily. So I'm the same boat as you, but I've seen it and I shake my head and I'm thinking that's not the way I do it, but that's the way the world's moving. So I can see him. It gives a different perspective.
And they do have a diversified business model because they have hair weaves and things like that.
It's not on the application.
No, in terms of the web. No, but
That's a personal recommendation.
No.
What was it? I don't know.
It's the web model, Instagram, social media platform is an essential non-negotiable right now.
I'm not buying it.
But it's also online bookings. In order to get those online bookings, I mean, there are people looking, if you can't get them here, you're going to use the same app and go to someplace else. You need to promote through marketing, whether your presence. It's kind of like search engine optimization. You need to select as good things for the business.
No.
Okay, well, Jesse.
I already talked,
You already-
but he did, but I, in his application, he did talk about having to convert to an online presence in order to book appointments and wanting to maintain that and grow it. So I don't see the web design thing piece. Does anybody want to, are we already?
Well, we're not talking about proportionality because you.
No one was interested.
I was interested.
Well, here's my issue with proportionality is they propose the budget. And, we talked about it before, in this case, they're not proposing to buy a thing, so if we cut it, it's not, they can't buy half a thing, they don't have that. But
They are on.
they are buying things, but it seems like we cut it by half, they can make adjustments.
I mean, I'd entertain a motion if you want to flip that. I mean, I'll raise my number and I'll put a higher score on it, but
I think it'll pass.
So what's the mechanism for? We
put a number out. what you could support if it's lower than what he's asking for. And then we'll go around the table and ask whether that would make a difference in the school. But we need someone to start it.
I suppose we could see where we are now.
I think we're gonna pass it anyways.
Right.
I don't know, Mike, I mean, it sounds like it's gonna, but
Can we see? if
but it's a valid point and we should entertain
Question
it.
is, the degree to which the proposed budget is appropriate and supported by documentational. Doesn't say anything about whether it's proportional to come to the company. The question doesn't line up with the proportionality.
I'm missing
The
the,
question,
Yeah.
the rating scale, nothing in the rating scale aligns with
Right.
proportionality.
so that would come in as the degree to which the pandemic created and the degree to which the remedy is a fix. And if you say, no, this is overkill, then it's on the 40 pointer. Is the proposed project, will it assist in long-term recovery and is not a temporary fix?
Not a
If it's
temporary-
overkill,
I read that as temporary fix.
it's not supposed to be a temporary fix.
Right.
Yeah, it's not supposed to be a temporary.
The proportionality that he was referring to, referred to figures of $12,000. 12 to 15, that was a salary, was that a salary, was that a?
That was his personal income he reported.
Yeah, you can't, that's a very small, they are on radius in market, for a lot of things, generally 12,000 in income, probably have to have $70,000, $100,000 haircut, so the proportionality, I don't think using a salary figure is the right. Look.
And remember, it's a retail business, which means it's a cash business as well. So hard to really to define the true.
Right, the true numbers.
Yeah, that's not, that's $25,000.
Well, his number, his gross, his number was 12,004 before the pandemic and 12,007 after. the pandemic. That's his number. And so the grant of 25, there's a legitimate good faith question. Is what are we really doing? I mean, that's the,
Business, you gotta put $1 million or $2 million in it, you're still not making any. So, I mean, you gotta be careful. what you
but
do.
if he was struggling before, our job is to not make his life more comfortable. If he was struggling before, then that's not our mission to. So that's the. I didn't think of trying to. Did you want to raise another number or is it
Nope.
futile exercise? No, it's just futile exercise. It's absolutely.
My fault. Thank you. Taking the fault. Mine is very good. You must have-
It's 85. Fritz, 85. Jackie McAfee, 80. Rose, 60. Monico, 80. Reynolds, 75. Bradinsky, 49. And Regan, 83.
I gotta kick out of like.
Yeah, everybody
Everybody else is doing about combination of all 5.
Or 0.
63.
So based on the average score, I make a motion that we recommend further favorable action in the amount of $25,000 in the matter of Cody's barbershop.
Amy, what was the average?
74.63.
Okay, quick roll call. Carl,
Yes.
yeah, Bradinsky, yes. Fritz,
Yeah.
Gross.
Yeah.
McNamee,
Yes.
Regan, Reynolds, Walsh.
Yes.
Okay. So we're going to adjourn in just a second. Let's just get our bearings. So the next meeting is going to be nonprofits. That agenda has been out. Your initials are next to it. And I'm gonna look at it again, but I'm not gonna do it right now. And maybe we'll just put the remaining applications on for the next meeting when we do businesses, which is March 1.
How many not-for-profits are on yours?
I don't know. I mean, I could look it up, but it wasn't, I didn't think I overloaded it.
We went to try to beat them, we might be able to for businesses next time, because everybody did their homework, so we might be able to.
Yeah, we might.
The 21st. 2, 5, 7, 8, 9.
The
10,
21st
12.
agenda's already out on the 21st, so we can't do
One
it.
on top.
That's at the town hall, right? The 21st?
Yeah, that's.
Yes, 3:15.
Well, whatever it is, it'll probably be March 1. I'll add these onto the agenda, March 1. All right, is that,
No Zoom.
so I made a motion to adjourn. Everyone agreed, yeah?
Yes.
Yes, unanimous. Thank you all.